Here we go. Hashtag cancelconor, episode 9. Mr. Juan Castro, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, actually.
Awesome, man. All right, well, let's start with a bit of your history, where you're from, what you do when you're not kung fuing and that kind of stuff.
I guess I was born in Colombia, and came here when I was around 13.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and been causing trouble ever since.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I don't know. I just always been really interested in challenging thought and like exploring thought in different avenues. So it's led me to study art and sculpture at one point in my life, and then after I got kicked out of art school, I studied psychology and got a bachelor's in psychology with a minor in philosophy.
Oh, nice.
Because, yeah, I wanted to go into philosophy, but like, what does a philosopher do? What does he get paid for, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the thought process.
Kind of a professional bullshitter in a sense.
Yeah, well, I wanted to perfect that.
Yeah.
You know, like, so that people, like, I could be like, yo, I'm not crazy. Look, I know why I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I have a degree in psychology.
Yeah, I can totally talk my way out of this.
Yeah. In a way,
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I've always liked to push the boundaries also a little bit, which is why I got kicked out of art school.
But I mean, that's honestly a weird one, because you would think art school would be exactly the place where you'd be able to express yourself. And like, I'm not going to ask the details of why you got kicked out or anything, but it's you'd think that's the point of expression, the point of art in general. Like,
yeah, no, it was surprising to me sometimes. Even like the students themselves would set limits for themselves. Yeah, we like, because first year you get the choice of doing half fine arts and half design, so you can see which side you want to go into.
oh, okay, so if you want to be more like an architect for physical construction, or as opposed to more
Or
the
graphic
artistic
design,
direction,
or photography, or video, anything that has to be with, you know, a more structured side of art, where you are given a problem by your client and you solve their problem creatively.
Oh, okay.
The fine art side is you come up with the problem, you solve it, and you express it.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. That makes better sense, actually.
Yeah,
It's a way better
and I love the way that like an instructor explained it to us, like in that first year, that it worked like that. And but the interesting thing was, I felt very confined in graphic design, like the design part of
right.
you know, creative expression, because I would be told, "This is great."
However,
but and I was told that in philosophy as well, which is really interesting, because I would have my instructors be like, "This is great, but it's not what we asked you." So it was that same kind of restraint. And so what was then interesting on the opposite side was that we were given complete freedom, and sometimes when we were given the most freedom, the students themselves would be like, "Wait, what are we supposed to do?" Like,
oh, they had
like,
too much freedom.
and like start to complain about it. Like, shouldn't we get like some sort of framework, like, you know, and things along that line, right? That like made me kind of be like, wow, like I thought that's what we all wanted, in a sense.
Yeah.
And now we're getting it, and you're not.
Well,
taking it in.
freedom is good for lots of stuff, but you can also be too free. Is the other part, which I kind of understand, with the idea of, well, I mean, like they say in the States, I mean, it's free market system or free capitalism sort of thing like that, but it's like you're also free to starve to death too. So,
Yeah, no, and the idea of freedom, like when you try and actually like explore it deep enough, like that sense of like, what am I supposed to do? I need some structure. Is coming from a place of disempowerment. Like you don't feel capable of handling that much options, in a sense, right? And it's the same thing that happens when people question, well, can we function without capitalism? can we function without an economy?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, nah, people would just, but it's because people are coming from a place of disempowerment where they're like freaking out when they get too much freedom instead of communicating, instead of trying to find understanding, trying to find, how can we serve each other in a way that provides value for both of our lives, and maybe not just, because that's the thing that happens naturally through business, but there's the economy, which is the artificial part of it.
Yes and no. I think because money is a big driver to make people do things, for one. Mm-hmm. But if we didn't have money per se, there's like, say where everybody's free to do whatever they want. Well, the example I was told from a friend is like, well, maybe somebody wants to make artisanal bread. Mm-hmm. Okay, well then all of a sudden there's 200 people on every other street that are making artisanal bread. Mm-hmm. How much bread are you going to sell at that point then? Mm-hmm. Right? So the market kind of helps regulate and go where we actually need certain things is part of it.
And that's the thing. Like I don't think that like there's such a thing as like complete freedom in a physical sense. Yeah. In a spiritual sense, we can access way more freedom than physically.
Oh, for sure.
But in reality, even in that art class, for example, even though we were given no boundaries, I'm still bound by physical reality. I'm still gonna be found by some sort of canvas or structural thing through the materials that I may choose, even if I choose to make a sculpture. Yeah. Right. So it's almost unavoidable to deny that like structure is needed in order to create something beautiful and perhaps efficient in some sort of way. When going outside of the realm of art, right?
Yeah. Well, that makes sense too, because if you want to build a physical structure, like we're downtown now, all of these buildings have to be built a certain way because of gravity. Mm-hmm. But you can use way cooler looking designs and put that into like a CGI Disney film or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like cool, like, because it's not actually really going to be built. Its physics don't really matter now, so it can be ridiculous, but looks super cool at the same time. And for them, it would work. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when we come to reality, it's like certain things need to have a certain level of boundary that you have to be a part of.
And so I think that like the disempowerment comes from like people not believing that they themselves can create enough structure to sustain and manage resources without like an economic system, at least like we know it now, because we are so caught up in what we've got right now that we're not even looking at options necessarily, and like we're kind of starting to be forced to do that. And that's why, for example, in Canada right now, the guaranteed livable income is in like its 4th or 5th reading in Parliament. Yeah. Because it's not working. Like people in minimum wage in a first world country can't afford to live. They can afford to struggle. Yeah. But
well, that's what they say. Like North America in general is one of the most expensive places to be poor. Mm. And it makes sense too, because like if you want anything, you have to get it yourself, and that's again where the problem with freedom comes in. It's because there are some social programs, but even then, if you don't know where to go or who to talk to about them, you're free to have a different level of failure, sort of thing too, right? Yeah. And that's the other part, is where more socialist and more communist kind of things will take care of you, but it's like your bare minimum is that, and the thing is you can't excel past that very far either a lot of the time. So it's like both of them are good in their own way, but they both have their own pitfalls too, right?
Yeah, I think that this labeling of the party system,
that's the worst part of it. I agree.
Like way of thinking, like paradigm, is kind of like it limits solutions a lot. Yeah. It limits solutions a lot.
Well, especially when at least 60% of the population in any country, demographic, whatever, kind of sit in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah, and
right?
it's just so without political affiliations, I feel like, for example, this would be a way to not necessarily abolish structure, but still like transform in a way that could help, you know,
Yeah.
get rid of biases, for example.
Yeah.
Because through the party system, biases are easily like shaped and manipulated through propaganda and like things that help get one party more votes or, you know, the other party more votes. And it's always going to be influenced through the corporations that make donations.
Yeah. Well, not only that,
so,
I mean, every politician stands on a platform talking about all these things. I'm going to change this and I'm going to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Not any of them do everything they say, and partly because they can't for some of it.
Yeah, where we could be focusing more on like actual solutions.
Yeah.
Like for a real long time, we've known that education needs an upgrade.
Hugely.
There's been experts talking about it for years. There's been TED Talks, and nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And it's in a way because it's easier for people that are misinformed, disempowered, have low self-esteem, low self-images, unhealthy relationships to be moved by the outside world. Anything that promises them some sort of safety, some sort of compensation, some sort of, and that's what they base political, you know, like campaigns on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you that safety. I'm gonna get you that compensation.
Yeah.
Right?
But they still have to cater to the majority, where kind of everybody again is in the middle, and they take care of those people. It's like they get that platform to get elected, but yeah.
I think the middle is like they kind of sell themselves short.
Yeah. Because
there's a lot more people, I feel like, in the middle that have completely been, you know, taking out of the illusion that it works.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, is the middle class runs the world, at least in the industrialized worlds anyways, because poor people don't have enough money to really affect change, and there's less of them than the middle class, and the ultra-rich, or even just, well, the rich in general, that are, their money kind of stays in their own circles. It doesn't actually go to the economy, per se, because every time they have some level of profit, it's tucked away offshore somewhere else. And it kind of just stays in their own small circles. But, well, like most of the taxes or the rules that they put, like carbon tax, well, it's an end user tax. It's like, well, why aren't the corporate world being taxed for that, or changed, or forced to do other things?
Yeah.
But it's like, no, you drive a car.
They should be the ones that, the only ones, perhaps, you know, that should be getting taxed for that.
And it's like, if we can't do that, then give us more options where we can do that.
Yeah.
Right? And it's
but it's because the government is not set up to actually help people. Like, this has been known for ages.
Yeah.
Plato himself, like, you know, he made that famous list of the worst types of government, and democracy fell in one of them.
Yeah.
And especially because this isn't actually democracy.
No, it's an illusion of democracy.
It's an illusion of democracy, but in reality, it's like very well disguised populism.
Yeah. Well, it's and that's what I keep talking to people about too, about the whole idea of we're not really that different from kings and queens from 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We're just more of like a corporate oligarchy now.
Yeah.
Where the corporate world runs kind of everything because they have the money and power to do so, for one. But the other thing is too is that the politicians are there to change and make rules for the corporate world, not for the people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm totally on the same page with you as that one, because we're just numbers.
Yeah.
And again, anytime people think that life is important, and it is to the individual.
Yeah.
But business-wise, you're just a number. And if you're not an efficient number, you're out.
Yeah, no. and so one of the things that I've noticed in the past few years, especially with COVID, is that consciousness has a way of expanding naturally. And it was expanding at such a rate. Like, there's been a few moments in the past 10 years, 10 to 15 years maybe, where consciousness has like had a moment of breakthrough where like people have united. Like the Occupy movement was one of them. People now have forgotten. You like talk to some people and they're like, what? Don't you remember like when people camped out to help corporations like, you know, accountable for a bunch of things that they should be accountable for?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, but they've forgotten because they like got completely pushed to the side. They figure out a way how to make it look like, you know, like it was just a pipe dream, or like.
Part of that, I think, though, too, is the the people that didn't really understand the message, and they kind of ruined what the point of the protest was. Is
So
the other
that's
part
what
of it?
I'm gonna get to. Because,
Okay, yeah.
because in 2019 there was another spark of huge movement of consciousness where like that Greta girl from Europe,
Yep.
the young one that started the Fridays for the Future movement.
Yep. Greta
Um,
Thunberg.
Billions of people gathered together to hold governments once again accountable for what they should be doing, which is serving people. And the people were speaking, this is what we want.
Yeah.
You know? Governments everywhere, like that were being held accountable by this huge movement of consciousness, unified. And what happened a few months after? COVID got released. So there's always been, and now people that I knew were unified through that movement don't even speak to each other anymore.
Yeah.
Because of the opinions and the perspectives that came out of opposing sides.
Yeah.
You know, so one of the first things that I questioned, like when it first started to happen, was like, what is truth? And that's exactly what they want.
Yeah. Well, it's that whole smoke and mirrors thing, and every time the collective consciousness, like you say, gets together,
Yeah.
there's a way that it's taken down. And yeah, history is constantly repeating itself.
Yeah.
Like we've had, AIDS pandemic. You know, that's pitting basically homosexuals against the rest of the world. Oh, only gays get AIDS, right? Misinformation, a lot of people being split by whatever artificial lines that we draw a lot of the time. You know, and then it was before that, it was, actually right around the same time, there was a huge cocaine and crack problem being pushed through a lot of North America. We had to deal with that. You know, there's a big war on drugs at the same time in 1980. It's like, well, but you guys are the ones that are bringing in the drugs. So what's going on here? Because you and I didn't buy the drugs. I mean, granted, neither of us were alive in 1980, but at the same time, it's like it wasn't the people. That stuff had to be shipped in from somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and then before that, I mean, it was right around 1980 when John Lennon, somebody that was, a good proponent of togetherness, global consciousness, gets shot in the back. By who? Somebody that was an extremist that they basically just had to kind of point in a direction.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't do that.
Exactly.
Before that, it was the whole peace movement.
And it's always someone else's fault, right? And
Yeah.
That's because they're always ahead. Like there's documents that show that the Rockefeller foundations had prepared for a pandemic in just the way that it happened. They funded a lot of the COVID research.
Yeah.
And they're one of the biggest influencers of like politics behind the scenes, where they can be far enough that they're like, well, that wasn't me.
Yeah, but they own everything, so it's
Yeah.
like, it always
And that's
is.
just one of them, and that they're the ones that get the most shit for it.
But it's also like a massive faceless empire.
Yeah.
Where you can't point a finger at anybody
Exactly.
in particular.
Yeah.
Just like the government. It's like everybody's pointing the finger at Trudeau, but it's like, he's not the one that calls you at 4 o'clock and it's like, you owe us 20 grand. It's like, who is this? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. So I find that like right now, people, I feel just through the conversations that I've been having more and more, that even though consciousness was like stunted by the pandemic, there's only one way to keep going with consciousness. It's natural for it to want to expand, and we've seen it through the development of our society. As soon as we decided we can do more, we started to do more. And like this, cameras, like the amount of technology that we have right now, and it's not even half of what we could be experiencing, but it benefits certain people to have society set up a certain way so that they can continue to live in paradise, which is what's meant to be here for all of us.
Yeah. Well, and like usual, it's something as big as the internet. It's like, well, we can't control, or we can't stop this, but we can control it and guide it in certain ways. Right? So they use technology to keep us separated, even though we do a great job of, dropping boundaries, dropping in artificial borders, artificial
is the word that's been coming up lately.
Right? Because and that's what it is. I mean, you look at pictures from satellites and from the International Space Station, there's no lines in the ground. We've given power to things that don't exist.
Yeah.
Because, this person believes in a certain type of God, they're different than me, so that means they're wrong and I'm right. It's like, well, that's not true either, because just because somebody has a different opinion doesn't mean they're wrong. And just because, and even if they are wrong about something, doesn't automatically make the other person right.
Yeah, no. And so this conversation of like artificial reality and natural reality, that's what's been becoming kind of like a very simple way of explaining what is real and what is not.
Yeah.
And what is true and what is not, because then you can just say, well, is that part of the natural laws?
Yeah.
Or is that something that we've created and that we can transform because we've created?
Yeah.
And so yeah, like one of the things that has been like coming up a lot is that scarcity is artificial.
Yeah, they're already talking about 6 months down the road how we're going to have shortages.
The thing is, like, what I mean, this is what I mean. So in the natural state of this earth, is abundance.
Yeah. Life thrives.
We have way more food that is out on shelves, that is out trying to be sold, than is consumed.
Yeah.
And yet we have people dying of hunger.
Yeah.
So it is a lot. Like, scarcity is not a lie. Those people should not be dying, technically. If we just look at the factors, like the most basic factors, right? Void of any artificial reality that we've created as a humanity to help us run things.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of people are pointing the finger at billionaires or whatever. It's like, well, they could solve world hunger. It's like, okay, but what about the governments that we pay money to constantly? Mm-hmm. Shouldn't they be taking care of people?
Yeah.
Don't we give them all of our money?
Well, and that's the thing, because they're serving the rich people, the corporations, instead of serving the people. And that's what they're scared of the most right now. And that's why they're working on trying to pass another online censoring bill, even though they already passed an online hate speech bill that took care of all the things that were coming out of the residential school and the children. That's why we don't hear about it anymore. Yeah. Because a lot of people were speaking a kind of rhetoric that was very passionate. It's very hard to not vilify and come off as hateful in your rhetoric in that kind of context. Yeah. So if the algorithm is going to be like, no, sorry, hate speech.
Yeah.
And now we don't know about the thousands and thousands of children that are being found for a reason. Because now they can pump a lot more clickbait things, things that will keep people on their screens scrolling in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And
well, and again, it's with the whole smoke and mirrors kind of thing like that. It's like, oh, well, this is the Catholic Church and the government. It's like, oh yeah, but did you hear Elon Musk is looking to buy Twitter? Oh, what? Yeah. All this other BS that, that's not, the timeline doesn't work out for that analogy properly, but it's that idea though, is that it's always, don't worry about wording, look over here.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's and every time I think of that there's a problem that it seems apparent, more often than not follow the money, because it's almost always the rich versus the poor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they give us other lines and divisions to divide us against ourselves instead of all of us being against them. Mm-hmm. And again, that's part of the problem. It shouldn't be against, it should be working together.
Yeah, and that's why they want us divided, right? Because the thing is, if we're fighting each other, then we're not going to be fighting them.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. They have, us so divided that they've infiltrated the division between people trying to have intimate relationships. Mm-hmm. Men and women both are so resentful to each other because of generational trauma, which is fair.
Yeah.
But that resentment is not getting people into healthier things, because we're not looking at the actual issue, and is that we've been tried to be forced into these artificial ideas of what relationships should be through the pretense of divinity.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you don't fit this certain ideal of what a relationship is, then you're not getting into heaven.
Yeah.
In one way or another, depending on the culture.
Yeah.
Right?
Or just, as a generalized statement, it's live this way and you'll be good. And if it's like, and if you're living good, we should be able to look at every aspect of your life. So if you got nothing to hide, what's the problem? It's like, well, the big problem with that kind of thinking is that every time you give somebody that level of power, they never give it back. Right, and that's where a lot of people want to have their actual freedom, not artificial freedom, this sort of thing too, right?
Yeah.
Right, and and I think that's where, like I said, they have to control, like how things are censored, how the internet is used in certain ways, because it's like, well, if they get together too much, then they'll have like a lot of really good ideas.
Yeah. So they want to keep men and women divided, fighting each other. You know, if they can throw in some of the LGBTQ. In there to fight against everyone else and make it so that some people from opposing sides are also seeing them negatively. Even better. Let's get some different colored skinned people fighting against each other as well. Let's tackle every single area that we can so that we have them so divided against each other, struggling emotionally, psychologically, to the extent that they can only focus on surviving. And they can't even get up to unify. And hold the government accountable for what it says it is.
Well, that's the greatest thing about the internet, which we didn't even realize that we were doing to ourselves, is that it's so fast and easy to use that all of our attention goes there instead. And that's really what's for sale, is your attention.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, and that is interesting that you say that, because one of my instructors at ACAD for a sound class, actually, I don't know, I think he got it from someone else, but he said the Third World War won't be a physical one. It's going to be a war for who gets people's minds, people's attention.
Yeah, well, that kind of documentary, whatever, The Social Dilemma, that was on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly that direction.
And it's the dopamine. We get rewarded from an alternate reality because our immediate reality is struggle because of the way that they set it up. For a lot of people, there's people that are in privilege that they're sometimes being life is super easy, and it can be. But that's not the whole extent of reality.
Well, the thing is too, humankind defines ourselves by struggle. A lot of the time, people are more than happy to tell you about the shit they've been through, and they wore their struggles and their disgraces and stuff on their shirts like a badge of pride. And it's and to a degree, it's kind of admirable, because look at all the shit that I did, and I can still smile at the end of the day. I can still go to the gym. I can still go, work a job, live a life, sort of thing, because I had all this shit piled on me, and I'm still kicking. So it's there's some admiration to that, but it's got to the point where, well, you haven't struggled enough. Well, you don't understand struggle. Well, I'm struggling so much harder than you.
Yeah. Instead of just...
We all struggle.
In different ways.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's the biggest conversation that I start to hear more and more people also talk about, the disempowerment of men.
Yeah.
Because we've been made to believe that we're empowered. No, only a few people that have been born into lineages of privilege within the patriarchy are the true men that benefit from patriarchy. Most men do not benefit from patriarchy at all. And they've made it that way so that, once again, if they can keep people unconscious, thinking that they know it all. And what do guys get criticized for the most? Thinking that they know it all.
The whole mansplaining thing.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
But it's in a sense true for a lot of guys.
I'm guilty of it, for sure.
I've been so myself, but that's a practice of learning how to listen and learning how to be open to thought, because a lot of times, even in psychology, some of my instructors have told me in the past, it doesn't matter what you think reality is and what you think is best for the person. It matters what their reality is and what they think is beneficial to them. If you can't tap into that, you're not going to be able to help them. You can tell them, do this, do that, this is going to benefit you. It's not going to change.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand people's motivations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's been a huge thing when you see good educators, and not just in schools, but like in every aspect of life, people that are some level of mentor or something to other people, is that if you're good at it, you should be able to teach like a gorilla physics if you can understand what's relatable, right? And that's the idea. I think where well, like we were talking about earlier, like education is a huge part of what needs to be lifted, and be funded better, and because there's a huge understanding of what the world is, and there's a big push to tell people what to think and not how to think. And learning how to think is far more important, because if you're told what to think, you're not always going to have somebody around to take care of you. So if you can't troubleshoot your own problems, you're just going to fail and fall.
Exactly.
Which may be part of the reason why they do it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, like, even high school was like, it is a fairly young part of the education system, you know, relatively speaking, and it was specifically made to slow down the younger people from stealing the older people's jobs. Yeah.
Well, and it's also for us to figure out who and what the hell we actually are is the other thing, because boy, oh boy, is there ever a lot of confusion in high schools. And not just now, since forever, because that's what teenagers are.
Yeah.
You're a child that's being told what to do all the time, and then all of a sudden you get all these hormones and your body changes, then all the jokes make sense, and all the songs make better sense, and it's like, okay, well, I'm an adult. It's like, no, you just learned to wipe your ass. Like, slow down. Like, wait till you're at least 18 before we call you an adult. Oh, I can do everything. It's like, okay, show us then.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. And I think that's a way of looking at education and at like the difference between ages from a very authoritative and elitist kind of perspective, because it's limiting kids, because we're asking kids, okay, show me what you can do, but we're also setting them up in a way that we're not showing them how to, you know, get shit done in the way that they could be, because like what we just said, you know, like it's set up so that people are disempowered. So I actually kind of want to try and do this, because this is part of the reason why I wrote my book, to challenge people to think outside the box, in terms of how fast reality could change, knowing what we know in terms of scientific research and data-proven things.
But how quickly things can change.
In terms of the human reality, the human experience, and how the systems that we create can be either less in alignment with human behavior and the human experience, or more in alignment with how we actually are, and how we actually develop, how we actually learn, and how we actually become empowered beings. So I kind of joke about what I would do if I was given complete freedom to change anything. If I was hypothetically crowned like king. Yeah.
I would be a tyrant. But
What's that?
I'd be a tyrant, but go ahead.
Since we're talking about education, like we can move on to like the actual political system in a little bit, but since we're talking about education, we'll start there, because we have enough data and research into the human experience to focus on primary prevention methods, which is something that has been lacking. We've been trying to deal with things at like the end part of the problem, so secondary and tertiary prevention methods. Whereas if we focus on primary prevention methods, then we have a better chance at not having as many problems at the end of the line, kind of thing, right?
Treat the problem, not the symptoms of the problem.
Exactly, right? But the thing there is that humans are more complex than just, you know, teach this and you'll get that, right? So there's certain elements of unpredictability that will only be truly addressed if someone had complete agency to change everything. In a somewhat, you know, noble and understanding way. So within the development of an individual, primary prevention methods can be divided into inside the home and within schools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because that's definitely where
most of
nature and nurture are the most important.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that we can make changes to the education system and start setting up kids with, gradually teaching them about like how to build better self-esteem, because there's enough research. Nathaniel Brand came up with a book that had how to integrate exercises and thought processes that would help people build better self-esteem.
Yeah.
And I've put it into practice myself. I've gotten great results. And in that book, it had instructions on how to integrate that into schools, into the home. This book was published in 1994.
Shit.
So we've had years to put this into practice, and like people don't even know about it.
Yeah. Almost 3 decades of a book just sitting there.
Just sitting there. And so we can start integrating classes that not only teach people how to build better self-esteem, better self-images, and how to create healthy relationship dynamics through teaching them communication strategies, de-escalating situations, things of that nature that would help people have way better personal lives and relational lives, right?
Yeah.
And that would be a huge benefit to people in general.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's going to address all the issue, because then there's still the home life.
Mm-hmm.
And just because we're starting to treat, or like try to give people the tools as a primary prevention method now doesn't mean that the lineage of generational trauma isn't, like present outside of that system that we would be attempting to integrate into society.
Yeah, well, there's always the unforeseen things that
Exactly,
are also
right?
affect
Like,
life.
what is the dynamic within the parents?
Yeah.
How are they parenting?
Even natural disasters and stuff like that.
Like so many factors.
Right?
Yeah. Like how many parents are present in the child's life? Things that could be completely out of someone's control, right? But there are also elements within that could be controlled if someone had complete agency to just change everything.
Yeah.
Because there could be a system set up to help empower parents through government regulation and, government hired people that would be a part of a social healthcare system that would help parents be held accountable to a certain standard of parenting.
Yep.
And so this would be a lot of jobs that would come out of like the complete automation of like our existence, because we could be automizing a lot more than we are, but it wouldn't serve the economy, and it wouldn't serve. But what do people do when they don't have things to do that machines could do? Sometimes people naturally want to help people.
Yeah.
And
more often than not, if I from my personal experience, I should say, at least anyways, when you don't have something to do, that's where depression sets in, and that's typically where addiction jumps in too.
Yeah.
So people need things to do, and volunteering is honestly one of the most gratifying things I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how functional that was.
And so in that ideal scenario of like employing people to help parents be held accountable, then the community as a whole just creating this huge network of support that would just naturally make people better thinkers, better, choice makers.
The thing is, it's like that's a great way of looking at stuff, but there's always pitfalls with that type of thinking though too, because it's, and that it sounds like authoritarianism or communism, basically, where you're giving basically all the power to one person. So it doesn't matter what.
I know.
And don't get me wrong. And I know that's not where you're going with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, too, just because somebody has that kind of power, there's going to be a handful of the population says it doesn't matter what they do, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah. So that's where the political side of it comes in, because like that's just a funny way of me expressing.
Well, and the thing is, I understand though too that you're not saying this is entirely how all of society has to change, but the basic important parts like nutrition, feed your kids properly, they learn better.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're hydrated, make sure they get a good night of sleep. And that's typically where society does start, is from children.
Yeah.
Really, because we were all there, and if we're not doing them a service, we're doing ourselves a disservice.
And how to communicate, because there's better ways of communicating and motivating someone. Because the thing is, like, I've worked in that industry as well, of like respite care.
Yep.
And I was able, also, like, I guess I'm coming from another perspective, but as soon as parents started to adapt some of the things that I was doing to get compliance from the kids, they had way better communication.
Yeah.
When they reverted back to, I'm the parent, you're the kid, you do as I say, so it's also communication. It completely changed the dynamic. When there wasn't that dynamic of like, you just don't know, so I'm gonna tell you what to do, and you're just gonna do it, and if not, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, and that carries on into adulthood very often, because if you ask somebody to help you or to do something, they're far more likely to do it, because even if it's an illusion of choice. That is where it's like, do this. It's like, well, you're not in control of me. You're not my parent. I'm not a child, sort of thing like that. And that's where that polarity starts to creep back into even just regular everyday life sort of thing. And that's what I found when I ask people to do things for me. It's far more easy to get them to help you out. But if you tell them to do something,
Definitely.
You can't tell anybody to do
that.
Really,
exactly.
right?
If you get this like feeling in you that you're like, no, you know, even if you want to sometimes, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. It's again like a simple level of psychology is where you ask and it's just like, well, I got to do this or that. It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make that sound like a question. I need you to do this.
Yeah.
Like that, and you throw like a little bit of laughter or a joke or something in there as well. They're like, oh, okay, I understand. This is important.
Creating rapport and like those things could be broken up into like formulas that people can adapt to their personality. So that's what I mean about like empowering people in that area as well.
Well, then a depth of actual education, not just 2 + 2 = 4.
Exactly, and not just things that most people won't actually like end up necessarily using. Yeah. Like I've used some of some things in math that like I never thought I would use, but only because I'm trying to build things.
Isn't it amazing how well math fits into life? When you build things in equations, like
but like since we were like kind of talking about like the way that I'm expressing this is like one person having the complete authority. That's not actually how I actually idealize a government that would be run, because I honestly
I was just trying to shoot holes through, because it's like somebody else that's listening.
I love that because it always helps me like find greater clarity. And so, one of the cool things that I like about the way that like Plato and Aristotle talked about like the philosopher kings is that they didn't really actually define it very well.
Yeah.
And so it left a lot of open space to speculate.
Yeah.
How would a group of intellectually led, ethically led individuals, which is not what we have, that would create the most, fair system through that embodiment of those qualities, look like?
Yeah.
It couldn't be a party system, because that divides people, that creates biases, that creates, everything that we already mentioned earlier on. It couldn't be a hierarchical system. It would just have to be a task-oriented system.
Yeah. Well, if it was true egalitarianism, where there's a lot more distribution of power, not a hierarchy where very few people control everything, like a lot of people control a lot of stuff, would be different.
Yeah, well,
but
more so I mean, like, for example, not having like a prime minister.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like, those like main figures that like are like like we're gonna have a group of people here that have been selected because they are either scientists, physicists, psychologists of high regard in each area.
Yeah.
And we are discussing problems from a problem solution based mindset rather than affiliations to parties and like certain, and also people that know about the economy, economists. That would be another addition, because in order to transition to something else, we can't just snap our fingers and change everything from day to night. We need people that know about the systems that exist to be like, okay, how can we transition from this to something more civil, more evolved, more empowering for people, right, and more efficient in the way that we control and supply and distribute resources.
Yeah, and some of that is kind of the idea, kind of more like the everybody holding hands under a rainbow sort of thing, which I agree with a lot of what you're saying. There's a lot of really good ideas with that, but I also know some people don't like holding hands. Some people hate rainbows, right? So there are issues with it, and more so to the point that I agree in the sense that there should be socialized programs like we have in Canada, like socialized medicine. We shouldn't have to pay a shit pile of money just to go get our broken knee fixed or something. I mean, that's fair that you just go get it done. I mean, mostly just on the ethics of it, because the whole idea of doctors taking the Hippocratic Oath is to do no harm. Well, if your bottom line or your profit margins are more important than helping people, you shouldn't be a doctor. Right? So that's a good idea to have. Well, and the same thing with education. Another thing that should be socialized and funded better than it is now. And that's what I thought was weird when NDP in Alberta got in and they spent a bunch of money and they built like 195 schools throughout the province. And they were only in for a short amount of time. They got booted out real quick. But it's like, okay, but almost 200 schools in a province? That seems like it was kind of overdue even at that point. So maybe, it sucks that a bunch of money went to one project and really nothing else during their time in power. But it was clearly something that was for the people, because it's something that we needed. And if we don't have, well, we definitely have kids to fill the schools because classes are overbooked, then pay more teachers more money so they can stick around and do the job properly too.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, like at the beginning, even though like I love the idea of empowering people for more and more freedom, like I'm very aware that structure is needed.
Yeah.
So within saying that, that I kind of envision a non-hierarchical political system, I don't necessarily mean that there is no structure. Yeah. Because
it'd be super structured. Actually,
it would be. It would have to be
so.
even more so structured to the extent that like individuals that were part of, I mean, some sort of hierarchy. Yeah. Some measure of hierarchy is inevitable.
Yeah.
But
accountability should be a part of it though too. I think.
Yeah. So the way in which I feel like hierarchy maybe could be reduced to its minimum would be through greater accountability, and that's exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
Because the way in which politicians get held accountable is very non-transparent.
Yeah.
So anyone that would be a group, for example, of like the main people making the choices at the end of the day, where it wouldn't be just like one, or like the parliament divided in parties, and it would be like just people having discussions and being able to have transparency about like everything that goes on. Not just that, but even to go as like radical as like personal lives. Like if you want to be running the country and making some of the biggest decisions for a huge amount of people, you should be able to make the commitment to have most of your life be completely transparent. Like there should be no question about like why, because then why do you have someone to hide?
Yeah.
And that amount of responsibility, to be held accountable in the way that people want to hold the government accountable, that's to the extent that it would have to be.
Yeah. Because
otherwise, that's why things happen that we're like, why is this happening? Why is this person spending money where they shouldn't? Why is this blah, blah, blah? That's why it happens, because there's not enough transparency, and people can sometimes get away with things until they find out that they did it.
Yeah. Well, I think we are all have been since forever trying to work towards some level of utopia where everybody is relatively happy, safe, well-fed, whatever sort of thing like that too. And because of that, there's ever increasing complexity, right? And I think that's, I mean, well, and compared to what most people lived 100 years ago, they would think what we have now is a utopia. But we have a lot of problems that they would probably just shrug off. It's like, well, that's not a problem. Yeah. Sort of thing. So some of it is perspective, but some of it also is that there's got to be a lot more to it, because to actually have a proper utopia, you have to have so many moving parts that if anything sets it off kilter, the whole thing is going to start falling apart, sort of thing. Like
and I think that utopia is not necessarily like possible. It's like trying to attain perfection within yourself. Yeah. Like you may be able to attain something that is close to perfection, but you're always going to have more room. You're going to have, you can grow more. There's always going to be someone that's better.
Well, it should be the idea of finding balance, not be all good.
Exactly. So that's exactly where like a more like realistic perspective of a utopia would be
a balanced society instead of
balanced society,
an all good society.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's the same. It would be like going back to making almost like divinely coded. Like this is how it like a perfect society should be. But no, it's just more balanced, more of an integration of our natural drives and our natural needs into the actual systems. Which, I mean, like if we can create everything that we have right now, to the extent that we've expanded our species to such an extent that we not only have the abundance to like feed everyone in the world if we really wanted to, we have that ability.
Pretty easy, yeah.
If we can do that, and I think we can go beyond, some of the things that are holding us back from doing that.
Yeah. Well, I think I heard some ridiculous stat, like we produce 40% more food than we consume even. It's like something preposterous, but people are still dying of starvation.
Exactly.
Like, the other one too that kind of blew my mind is that leprosy is still a thing. And I'm not 100%, I'd have to check this, but I'm pretty sure you can cure it with penicillin. Huh. Why is there still leprosy in the world?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing, right? Like that solutions are dictated by the economy rather than the actual capability of us solving the problem.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. And that it right there is like it.
Yeah.
We could be solving a lot more problems if we were just focused on just solving the problem instead of like, oh, what happens if we solve the problem? And there is a balance, right? But that's why we need people that are unbiased to...
Oh, fuck, that's tough.
And that's why like that thing I said about like complete transparency would almost be like a complete necessity to be able to shift from a party system to a problem solution based system.
Yeah. No, and that's actually exactly what the direction of like egalitarianism, where you have somebody that looks after just the food, somebody that looks after just health, somebody that looks at just after mental well-being, or whatever, a group of people that do that sort of thing like that. So even with each of those each of those groups has a minimum of 6 people at the top that are working through things, because each of them will troubleshoot different ideas that the other person didn't see, which is exactly what bureaucracy is about. However, it takes time, and some solutions need to be solved faster than others. So there's also that part of it too, which is difficult to get past. But at the same token, though, too, it is a far better way of looking at things, because, like dropping the whatever titles and names that everybody are going to definitely attach to that idea, like I've already done to you a few times, like, oh, that sounds communist. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. You're not listening, right? But that's the thing. It's like, I know what you're saying. I understand it. It's like, it's the larger picture. It's not just that, well, this has to be this way, it can't be anything else. No. Yeah. It can be lots of stuff.
Exactly.
If we work together is the idea.
So that's what I've been like realizing has been like a unifying thread in like making people understand. It's like yes, but like there's more room to play with. Like it doesn't have to be so narrow-minded, and that's the thing, right?
Well, because there's so many things in life that are on a spectrum. I keep making that point to people. Like nothing is one or the other, black or white. I mean, even black and white. Like, which black or white? What are we talking about? Right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Light, sound. It's part of one of the universal laws in the Kabbalion, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Because everything lives on a spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't matter what topic you can think of. There's always multiple opinions of every topic.
Yeah. And so when we bring all these like ideas, these abstract ideas that are like great solutions, to the systems that we have, realistically, we can only make those happen. Like some of those happen really fast.
Yeah.
Based on where we are in terms of like the systems that we have and the agency that we have as like regular people to do something about it. One of the easiest things to change would be education.
Yeah.
But like there's like scientists from NASA now like protesting and like putting their jobs on the line, speaking out about like the climate disasters that could happen if we don't make major changes within the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's another interesting factor because we can make all these changes slowly because once people start to be properly empowered, at least from the school system, completely disregarding the other factors, that's gonna place a seed in place that would potentially flourish into a law, in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Because everything is a process, like you said. Some things can change really fast, but people and like changing all those systems in the way that we've spoken in a very natural way by the most minimal change that could happen, that would take a long time. If we started to put in place other things within, what we talked about, then things would happen faster.
Yeah.
But that's the thing in terms of like the time frame that we have in order for like our resources to be affected by the same systems that we're using to create those resources.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and more specifically to that point too, like something like the plastic problem of the world.
Yeah.
How is that an end user problem?
Yeah.
Give us other options, or you guys that are making all the plastics, you stop making as many plastics.
Yeah.
There's lots of other materials we can use.
Yeah, because a lot of times people are forced into buying what's cheap, and what's cheap? Plastic.
Yeah. And again, profit margins. Life doesn't matter.
Exactly, yeah.
Profit margin matter. Right?
Exactly. So it's a lot like the corporations that don't want to be held responsible too,
Yeah. Well, and that's the other part is corporations are made by people. A corporation doesn't want to do anything by itself.
Exactly.
And it can't.
Yeah.
It's because of the people that are there, and it's the business that's doing this, or it's the corporation that's doing that. It's like, well, yeah, but it's run by people still. Shouldn't they be held accountable for what we're doing?
Yeah.
There's
exactly, yeah.
There's a lot of people that are talking about sustainability and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, okay, but you better not have an Amazon account then. Like, walk down the street, go talk to your local shopkeeper. Like, buy local, be a part of your community if that's how you feel. And that was actually kind of the one other point that I was going to make when we were talking about the Occupy thing and how it got muddled with all these uninformed people that are not understanding. It's like, okay, well, we're doing this to stand up for certain things. Say, okay, but you're staying in mass-produced tents, organizing this on your iPhone. Like, do you not see some of the irony that's going on here? You're using all of these products made by massive corporations that you're bitching at.
It's almost unavoidable, right? Like what you say. Like I consider myself like all for sustainability, but I myself am forced to buy plastic.
Yeah.
Even sustainable products come in sometimes plastic products, and I'm forced to.
Yeah, it sucks, right?
So it's like the hypocrisy is almost unavoidable because, like you said, it's not a consumer problem.
Yeah.
It's a producer problem. Yeah. And so even if you're like, we need to change, you're being forced because you're giving only like the options that you're being given. So
and that even kind of more of a comedic way of one of those G8 summits years and years ago. And there's a bunch of protesters there, like stop oil and gas, this, that, and the other thing. One of the oil executive gets up there. How many of you rode your horse here today? And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, but again, we're not allowed to ride horses in the city, right?
Yeah.
And like, I'd like to grow more of my own food and be more sustainable that way. It's like, is it affordable to even do that?
Yeah.
Is
and
it
we're
better
not-
to actually spend the money at a local shop to do it instead for me?
Yeah, we're not
Like-
given the options, right?
Yeah.
And that's because, like, if we're going to talk about that, like, we could technically be setting up people with the technology to grow a decent amount of their own food.
Which we should be doing.
Yeah.
Every one of
Like,
these rooftops should have a garden on it, really.
And not even that, like indoor growing things too. So like even going further than that, you could have both the rooftop garden
Yeah.
and a personalized hydroponic, little growing area.
Yeah. Especially right here, this west-facing window.
You
Perfect.
could have,
Yeah.
and like you wouldn't need soil with the hydroponic system, and you could still grow, not like a lot of things, but like you could grow enough for sustaining some, lessening some of your costs,
Yeah. Well, and reducing trucking costs,
reducing trucking costs, reducing all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is too is that if you're growing it yourself, you probably have a better control of the environment. You can use less pesticides because it's in your own home. Like there's a lot of factors that could be mitigated.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
for
And
lots of that. Yeah.
So yeah, like right now we have a lot of solutions to problems. If we really focus on that.
Yeah. But there's also the complacency with a lot of it too, because this is how we've done it forever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that doesn't mean we can't optimize, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I was working like building an office at one of the NMAX power plants, one like towards Balzac, and I was looking at the system, and it's like I don't know that much of what's going on, but wouldn't it be better to capture the already heated steam and put it back into the system? Because like we're heating up water to turbines, because that's basically how all power is generated, and then like how they heat the water is the thing. So the way they do it is they're using natural gas. Okay, well then they buy that from a different part of the NMAX company. Plus they buy the water from a different branch of the company to produce the power. So there's money transferring back and forth, which is good because it helps move the economy and stuff as well. But couldn't you reduce some of that by capturing the water, putting it back into the system so it doesn't have to have as much energy pushed into it to begin with?
Yeah.
And there's like a handful of things that I kind of asked the guys that were working there, like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing too. Like that, you made a perfect point of like once again how the system, the economy, the movement of money that is good for the economy is keeping innovation back.
Yeah.
Because that could be made more efficient if we were truly focused on just problems and solutions.
Yeah.
And yeah, I heard a great quote in the before the beginning of this year actually. About truth, that whenever you deviate from simplicity, you're also deviating from truth, because truth is often simple.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole idea of Occam's razor, right?
Of what?
Occam's razor?
What is that?
The idea that you basically slice off all the parts down to its most simple pieces to find the truth of what something is. Because the more complex it is, the chances are that there's less of it that's real. Right? And more often than not, that's what it is. There's a lot of the world's problems have very simple solutions.
Yeah, yeah.
But we tell ourselves these complex stories to justify the shit that we do.
Yeah, that's it right there. And it's the same with relationships. It's the same with, our own life. We can overcomplicate getting out of bed.
Yes.
Getting out of bed. We can overcomplicate something as simple as getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's really great reasons for that in each individual's life.
Yeah.
That is related to the struggle that's been created, artificially for us.
Yeah.
But still, it's a simple thing to get out of bed. But this is one example.
Yeah, and that's so true, because before you get out of bed, you're already thinking about work or what I have in the fridge or whatever. And it's like, why does any of that matter? Because right here, right now is what matters.
Yeah.
Right?
And what you can do, because that's where we also start deviating from truth in making it more complex. Focusing on this or that, like the shortcomings, the things needed that are not here. But if we focus on the simplest part, which is what you can do, that is the truth.
Yeah.
And regardless of how, like what the context of that reality is, you're gonna be a lot less troubled by all the different factors that complicate the truth. Than if you just focus on what you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think that's why social media is so addictive, is because we're so attached to drama, because we haven't evolved past that, basically, is a big part of it. And I think they talk about that in Sapiens, that book by Yuval Harari, and we haven't evolved to the point of the apex predator, something like a bear or a shark or something has. They've taken millions or hundreds of millions of years to evolve to be a perfect predator, or perfect at the top of their food chain, sort of thing like that. We went from the middle to the top in really a couple of generations, right? So we're still basically sitting here with our ape brains or monkey brains, sort of thing like that, constantly afraid of things. And if that's not enough, we're giving ourselves more stress, because every time a notification goes off, is this a good email or a bad email? Somebody honked at me when I was walking down the street. Is that a good or a bad thing? Like somebody's smaller than I am. Are they afraid of me just because I'm standing there?
Yeah.
Right? So which I guess that's more of an older one, but still, like there's like so many other extra stresses and complications we put on ourselves, and really of our large emotions, we only have one kind of positive one. Like we have joy, happiness, love direction, but we have fear and stress and anxiety and confusion, and like there's so many other negative things that we have, that we kind of have. We're always preparing for something that likely won't happen, but we can't help ourselves. That's how we think.
Yeah.
And we're always using the past to try to figure out the future. But like we were saying, right now is all you actually have.
And the thing is, people are rarely also given the time to give time to themselves.
Yeah.
Also, and that helps with all of that. When you give yourself time, when you're able to let go of the tensions that build up in your body through emotional stress, psychological stress, physical stress, you're more ready for all those negative things that might come your way, and you can handle it from a wiser place. So, and I've noticed it in like different ways in reality, not just in my life but other people's lives, that like tension oftentimes like manifests in different ways, and it can keep you from handling things in the way that you could otherwise do, right? Like even in a physical sense, if you have tension in your body, your range is not going to be the same. Your range of motion is not going to be the same, and your ability to potentially deal with situations that may arise is not going to be the same.
Yeah. Well, learning how to shake shit off, like physically sometimes, but psychologically is the other part. And I think they talked about this in Kung Fu, about how like a zebra or a bird or something like that gets chased by a predator and it gets away. Well, what does it do? Pretty much when it finds that it's safe, it physically shakes it off.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's sitting there with this anxiety. It's like, I need to get rid of this. So they shake it out and say, okay, everything's cool. I can be chill. I can eat grass again, or whatever sort of thing.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
I know, and
we just sit there with it.
What I just thought about that's super funny. That is kind of related to that artificial kind of frame of thought, getting away from the natural frame of thought and natural reality.
Yeah.
Because that perspective comes almost from a place of being like, I'm a human, I should be able to deal with it in a more civilized way. So if I'm civil, I'm going to remain in control. I'm going to be still as much as I can. You bottle it up. What happens? It gets worse if you bottle it up.
Yeah.
And all we have to do is shake. Just like shake, like
sometimes it's
naturally do.
Yeah, sometimes it's a physical shake. Sometimes it's going and getting sweat on. Sometimes just going outside for a walk.
Yeah.
Like you gotta unwind that shit somehow. And it's hugely helpful. And that's the other thing that I think people miss the point of exercise. It's not physical. it's like 80% mental and 40% physical.
And I think there's an emotional aspect in that as well, like, you know, because like you said, it helps process emotions, right?
For sure, yeah. Well, yeah, and you talk about anybody that's done something difficult. When you get onto the other side of it, it's like, this is an accomplishment. Look what I've done, sort of thing, you know. And that's kind of more the positive idea of what us framing ourselves in our versions of our own struggles is that, no, I don't need to go lift heavy things, but I'll feel better if I do. You know, like, it's not going to actually do anything other than make my brain feel better and my body work slightly better. But if I do that every day this week, it's going to be even better all the way around. You know, so that when I do have complications show up, will they actually be that big of a deal, or can I stay calm through it now? Yeah,
exactly. And part of the issue, I think, that people just don't fully, like you're saying, miss the point of what like being physical and working out, being active is actually about. Because they're more focused on like the physical appearance of it than the actual physical process that goes on in your body and your mind and your emotions. When you go through physical experiences that, you know, challenge your cardiovascular system, that like shake off excess stress and release stress oftentimes too.
Well, that's actually what I thought was so really interesting, because that was actually something my high school football coach had said. It's that football in general, but it's like generalizing it is like physical fitness is that 80% and 40%. Like 80% physical, 40% mental. It's like, I understand that it adds up to 120, but it's like, that's kind of the point though too. Because if you're not engaging your body, your mind's going to suffer for it twice as much. So it's going to, you being at 100%, or, you know, people saying like I'm 110% sort of thing like that. It's like, you can actually be better than you thought was possible. I know that's what I was, because I was an alcoholic for years, you know, and going to the Kung Fu studio. They were nice about it, mostly, but they pushed me in directions that I didn't think I could do until I started to realize I'm worth more than what I thought I was. I can do more than I thought I could. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, that's why all this positivity comes from. And okay, now everything's easier. I don't focus on stressful things that bother me anymore. You know, like I still get caught up in social media once in a while, but I cut a lot of that stuff out of my life because it's not positive. It's a psychological disease, basically, or a virus that we're intentionally infecting ourselves with. You know, we don't need to, but we do it anyway. Which is kind of human, I guess.
And you know what an interesting thought, actually talking to Master Piercy, we talked about how there was a part in the Middle East at one point where they actually shut off the internet for a period of time because people were starting to gather through Facebook groups and things like that, and it was like a kind of an authoritarian government type place. I can't remember the exact place, but they turned it off, and the opposite of what they thought happened would actually happen because people weren't distracted, couldn't escape as easily as they couldn't get that dopamine hit or whatever, and then they got off their asses and then actually, you know, made the movement even stronger.
Nice.
So that's what it made me think about what would happen, you know, if for a week the internet was gone.
Oh man, wouldn't that be so cool?
That'd be like such an interesting experiment.
Well, and I wonder how many. Of course, my mind always goes to the bad part of it. Like, but at the same time, well, too, it's like how much liberation would that create as well?
How much conversation, free of bias. Also, you know, because that's what it also would kind of almost prevent people from getting access to.
Well, and that's actually a big part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you today is because we've been having really stilted conversations online because you can't get a full expression out properly, and even if you think you've typed it in nicely, it's not read the same way that you're saying it. So being able to sit here and look at you and talk to you, read your body language, see what you're actually about, It's like, okay, well, we have way more in common than I thought we were going
Exactly.
to.
That's what happens naturally with people, right? Like,
yeah.
It's been really interesting, like being a vegan for a couple of years, because oftentimes people make assumptions about you as well.
Yeah.
Because you've chosen to not eat certain things,
But you just othered yourself.
well, it's just like, it's kind of funny because like it's interesting that, like, for example, my ex's family, they were all hunters.
Oh, okay.
And she was worried introducing me to the family, and then this one specific uncle that was very political.
Oh, okay.
You know,
the old conservative uncle.
But it's interesting. He was actually liberal, which was surprising.
Okay.
But apparently, if people got talking about politics, it always ended up in like a kind of uncomfortable situation with a lot of tension.
Yeah.
And they were surprised with how like much we connected and bond, like, you know, like, and the family like loved me as far as I knew, you know. But
yeah.
But they were all surprised because all of a sudden, being face to face with the actual person that could have, you know, some conflicting views with you, is not what you thought that person was. And then you find out that you have way more in common, and you connect, and then you create rapport, and then you start to have love between people that might otherwise think, oh, that person. Oh, and the other side is like, oh, that person too. Like, I don't want to be like that person, you know?
Yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, it's so easy to unintentionally seem like a troll online. As where, you actually talk to somebody.
Yeah.
It's way different. Or, some of the shit that you see people
takes a
say.
lot of skill,
Well, and you see some of the shit that people put on there. Like, would you actually say that to that person's face?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Yeah.
And the other part of it is, though, too, is like I understand the difference in people where somebody's maybe got dealt an unfortunate hand. They've never really had any level of control or power in their life, and this is the first time they can actually have a voice or have some level of control over something. So that's kind of the other good and bad part of it too.
Yeah, you never know where like other people are coming from, and that's part of it. Like what you were saying too. You know, you never know where someone is coming from through an online platform.
Yeah,
you know,
which is all the more reason to not judge, right?
Yeah, but when you're with someone, you have the chance. I mean, if you have the time and space, you can get to know why that person thinks that way. If you're really coming from a heartfelt place.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing. Like, because of the societies that we've created, we've closed our hearts so much. I've been guilty of it myself.
Yeah.
You know, because people are out there sometimes for themselves, and like, if you don't know your own worth, the world will tell you that you don't mean anything, basically.
Yeah.
And that you're replaceable, that you know, all these things that are not necessarily true. Like, you know, someone out there is like had a smile, has a memory of something that you said that added value to them, and their life would have not been the same if they had not come across you in some sort of way.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about living in Calgary, is that we have this massive city here, and honestly, it's pretty safe here. Like, compared to a lot of cities in the world, this kind of feels like a really big, small town in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I mean,
I never thought about it that way.
Like, I mean, downtown, I mean, you're always going to have problems in the core of any city, just because of the way life is. But at the same token, we're also like an hour away from the Rocky Mountains. Mm-hmm. And every time I get too caught up in my head, I go out there for a walk. And I look at these things that'll be here long after I'm dust. And it's like, how big are my problems actually? Mm-hmm. They don't mean anything. Yeah. Calm down. You know, lighten up. Take a joke once in a while.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the other part. And like we talked about before, like, I don't need to try to explain shit to everybody or try to correct them on everything, you know, and I'll try to, help people troubleshoot things, but it's like sometimes they're not looking for that. Yeah. You know, my opinion is valuable.
It takes wisdom, and you have to learn that if you want to have peace in your life, basically, because you can really like damage your own peace trying to give someone advice that doesn't want it.
Yeah.
and like that's one of the hardest, you know, especially if you like really care about people and you love passionately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be hard because sometimes you want the best for someone, but if they don't want it,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a constant struggle, and you're gonna make them feel impossible to love, and you're gonna make yourself impossible to love, because both of you are like, but I want the best for you, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I know, but I don't want it, and it's like, why don't you want it? And it's just like this back and forth. That's like, well, there's a lot of reasons behind it, but oftentimes and rarely people are willing to address those things that lead to some things that they don't want, and like they're constantly complaining about.
Yeah. Well, and even actually just the way you word it is like, I want the best for you. It's like, well, first of all, how do you know what's best for me?
To a certain degree.
To a certain point.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too is like, does everything have to be the best all the time? That's the other part, isn't it? That's something I've had to kind of calm down with on some of my part. It's like, I got to do work exactly a certain way, or I got to say perfect words and structure sentence exactly. Just get some shit out sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of doing the podcast. Like, it's not perfect by any stretch.
Yeah.
But being able to talk with people is the point of this.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, the fact that I put it online almost means nothing because I'm not looking to get monetized. Or
yeah,
anything.
and even
it's
those,
evolving.
And even those imperfections are like what make it really special too for people, and like personality comes through, you know, because that's what, like, before we started filming, and like, or maybe you were filming already, but it's gonna be edited out.
Yeah.
But what we were talking about, like my performance last night.
Yeah.
It was the fact that I was coming from such a genuine place of like bringing joy to myself in such an extent that like I was sharing that joy in like a different way that made it so effortless and so fun for everyone there too.
Yeah.
That they could see that I wasn't trying, and I've been, you know, I've tried before, and you can see when someone is trying, which is part of the process, you know, of learning. Of how to express yourself authentically, and being aware of the audience as well.
Yeah, and it's the eyes.
Yeah.
People smile from their eyes, not from their mouth.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference. It's something that you don't even think about. And that's, again, windows to the soul. I mean, that's a huge part of it. So if they can see your eyes, they can see how genuinely good you feel.
Yeah.
It's infectious. In the best kind of way.
Yeah. And so it's been interesting, because I feel like a lot of people could tap into that, but once again, you know, like the situations that we've created, and not everyone has the drive to find that or the resources.
Yeah.
So.
Or they're not even sure what that is even necessarily.
Yeah.
Like where to look for it even to start with.
Yeah, because what might be perfect for me, someone else tries to do it might not work the same.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but I like the phrase that doesn't matter if you're ready, start. Because if you wait till you're ready, you're never going to start.
Exactly. Yeah. I know. Like.
And that's so
true.
It
wasn't the same when I started for sure. Like. Definitely not the same. I had to figure it out for sure to get to that point that I'm describing right now, where like it felt amazing for both me and the audience, like the whole experience.
Yeah.
It was a learning process, and I had to force myself. Like I wasn't ready. I by any means am not the best musician, you know, like that exists or anything. Or you know, when I was starting, way less. You know, now I've evolved because of my commitment. To practice, but
that's the whole.
I started way before I was ready.
Yeah, but that's the whole like Brene Brown thing, like the strength of vulnerability.
Yeah,
and it's like you're willing to put yourself out there, knowing that you might eat shit up there.
Yeah,
and you might do it, and you might do it several times, right?
Yeah. There were times that I questioned very hardly, like, why should I even get on stage anymore? Because I was like, shit, man, that was not like the best, or like what I envisioned, or like what I thought, you know. But it's those expectations sometimes that get also in the way of your truest self.
Yeah, but you also look at it; it wasn't a defeat. Like I do something well, or I learn from it, and that's the other part of it too. It's like, again, if you don't look at things as right or wrong, it's like, well, you kind of never lose then.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's like the further, like going back to that, the further you get from the truth, the more complex it gets. The simplest part is that you're never going to be great at anything the first few times that you do it.
Yeah.
You know, and we can get in the trap of labeling ourselves and being like, I guess I'm just not good at that.
Yeah. But even if equally as bad as that, if you do well at the start, you stagnate there. You never learn to optimize or how to reach more or to do better necessarily either. So there's always benefit in screwing up. You know, like hopefully it's not such a bad screw up that it's going to affect like a lot of stuff in certain ways, but something simple
that's
like
what it helps to have an expert that guides you to do that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what, like, this same conversation applies to what we were talking about in the bigger scheme of things as well. Because, how did you put it again?
Start before you're ready?
It was like, I lost my train of thought for like a second there, and like, what was the thing that we said just before?
I don't know. I'll have to back it up. A lot been going on. That's
I know. But it was about how people like restrict themselves through like.
Oh, when you do things right, you mean like you don't.
When you do things right,
you don't think you have to change or be better. You don't have to optimize necessarily. You just think you've done it right, so that's all there is.
Yeah. Oh man, maybe it'll come to me.
It will in 5 minutes, I'm sure. It'll be like in the middle of a completely other thought, and it'll pop in.
Because it was perfect, and I like for a second it just like shot away from me. Yeah.
That's the tough part with conversation. Sometimes like, I have this really good point, and sometimes you almost have to talk over somebody to get it out. Just so it's like I needed to get that out. Sorry, what was your point?
Yeah.
No, but it's good, man. I mean, again, the whole point of having the conversation, right, is to be able to work on things. And like again, with the whole being locked away from everybody, like I spent most of this last winter hiding in my basement. You know, partly some stuff was, things that I needed to be introspective of and think and work on a little bit for some of it, but I was there for too long. And I knew it, and I let my fitness fall apart, and then I actually started forcing myself to go out and socialize with people because my conversation skills were falling apart even. And I was like, holy crap, I kind of did myself a disservice in a certain way too, because I didn't have enough interaction. And I was intentionally basically trying to see things through a certain lens in a way, and how I'm applying all this stuff to myself, my life, and then again I get caught on my head for too long, and then I'll watch something like Letterkenny, which is like basically like the town I grew up in, and I'm like, oh wait, life is really simple. Just give your nuts a tug and move on with your life. And sometimes it's that simple where you just need to. Okay, well, am I going to worry if Mercury's in retrograde, or am I just going to go get this work done and I need to get done today?
Yeah. And that comes to like empowerment as well, like and like tools the resources that people have available to them, because sometimes like I don't know, it like also like has blown my mind in like the transition process that I have been through, coming out of something similar where like I isolated myself, and I was telling you about that. That coming out of that and like focusing on reclaiming my peace, but also creating a healthier support circle. What I found was like talking to other men in special, because the topic was like breaking up, like what happens after a breakup. And that was part of like the focus on reclaiming my peace and focusing on how I want to show up in the world through also a healthy social circle. And talking to another guy that had like, girls were starting to show interest in me, even though I didn't want anything to do with girls at a certain point. But they were showing interest in me, and I was talking to him about it and like how like they were inviting me into their lives or whatever. And then he was like, man, that's crazy. Because for me, it had only been like maybe a month when like this started to happen. and he was like, it's been 2 years since I went through something similar. And he's still, you know, held back, stuck in this place.
Yeah.
Right? Because he doesn't have the same resources that I've had. He doesn't have the same, you know, I've developed myself to the extent that I have, where like if something huge happens that can shake me to my core, when I have the right support system around me, I can bounce back like way faster.
Yeah,
You know?
and that makes good sense too, because like you say, you have the equipment sort of thing to, well, partly to move past it. This is where it sounds like he's stuck in a moment.
Exactly, and I have, you know, have had enough resources in my life and developed my social skills to a certain degree that naturally I can tap into my natural attractiveness and not have to like be chasing necessarily, you know, people for like validation.
Yeah.
But more so just be myself in front of certain people, and whoever like clicks, vibes,
Yeah.
it naturally happens.
Well, that's what one thing that I was always confused about when I was younger is that, well, am I not good enough looking, or am I not doing the right things in relationships, or am I this, that, the other thing? And it's like, well, I'm asking the wrong questions in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? The idea is that confidence is what's attractive, not necessarily physical appearance. You know, like, don't be a complete slob, but at the same time, though, too, it's people are attracted to personalities more than anything.
Yeah.
You know, and even guys that are just looking to hound attractive women and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like they still have to be able to connect on some level for anything
Yeah,
to
you
happen.
have to be able to understand their reality, and that's a huge part of like what my process out of that place where like I wasn't able to see my worth, I wasn't able to communicate my personality in the best way possible. That's what I found also, that I had to understand, you know, women's reality better as a way for me to not be so caught up in my own you know, BS, because at the end of the day, that's one of the biggest struggles that guys have. Now that I've also taught some men how to get out of that place and, you know, get better socially and with their dating lives, is that guys have a huge issue getting in their heads.
Yeah.
And when you get in your head, you're minimizing your consciousness and your awareness to just inside your brain, like probably just a few electric shocks, you know, that are going on. Whereas when you're present, fully present, and you expand your consciousness to your body, to the space that you're in, the people that are within the space, then you can act more genuinely and express yourself in a way that you're aware of not just yourself, but the other person.
Yeah.
And then that's where the magic happens, when you know also what makes a conversation good. Not what to say, but what makes a conversation dynamic, and what can, you know, make a person feel like sharing more than, you know, they otherwise would. And it's not going to work with everyone, but as long as you're coming from that present state where like you're not caught up in here, but you're like feeling the space, then you're going to come from like the best place that you can at that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's that whole strength of vulnerability kind of direction sort of thing, because you're not only are you not afraid of failure, you're not overthinking what can go wrong.
Yeah.
You're just being there, being who you are, being the most present version. I was going to say the best version, but that's not necessarily true either. It's just you are there in that experience, you're in that moment.
Yeah. And one of the biggest issues, honestly, that guys have in this realm is that there's not enough like role models that exhibit, you know, the qualities that lead to an attractive man.
Yeah.
And a wholesome, attractive man. You know, because oftentimes guys start to realize that, or they see that the attractive man is the bad boy, and then they go the whole complete opposite way.
Yeah.
And then they might get some results, but then they become toxic, you know?
Yeah. Well, I also think, and I'm I'm not going to pretend like I understand women at all.
Yeah.
But I also have a feeling that's why older men, and not old men necessarily, but a guy that's, well, basically got their shit together and isn't acting like a child all the time.
Yeah.
That's what's more attractive to women.
Definitely.
Right?
And that's what, like, because it's not about the money. It's not about the outwardly things.
It's not the bit of white in the hair.
Well, that also can be an illusion. And,
Yeah.
like, just like immature men can fall for superficial beauty,
Yeah.
immature women can also fall for superficial signs of status and wisdom,
Yeah.
right? And which could be the white hair.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
You know,
right?
the silver fox kind of archetype, right?
Yeah.
But you can exhibit the qualities of worth and status and attractiveness
Yeah.
just by being more aware of yourself and cutting out the things. A lot of times it's just getting to the truth of the matter, like simplifying things and not overcomplicating it. And a lot of times, like men are just so disempowered by themselves, even.
Yeah.
Because within other men, if you don't know what you're doing, it's like, come on, man, just man up. Like, go ask her out. How do I do that? How do I come across? How do I?
What are the words? Like, give me a sentence to say. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't. What's an icebreaker? Like
And men are just like, oh, dude, just send it. You know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but I know, but most men don't actually know. And like, it's great that you say like, I'm not gonna pretend to know women, because most men don't even get close to, and they pretend like they do, and they like oversimplify.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like the biggest issue, that like men themselves like hinder themselves by thinking that they know
Yeah.
when they don't, and they should find out.
Yeah. Which is, I think, probably the most frustrating thing about the whole mansplaining thing. It's like, you don't even know what you're talking about. So why are you trying to explain shit to me?
Yeah.
You know? And
in those contexts for sure. Yeah.
And it's not just men doing it to women. We do it to each other constantly. You're doing that wrong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you want to come over here and say it to my face?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, and there's definitely a way to be able to have those conversations and be received well. You know, constructive criticism, right?
Yeah, for sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that goes back to the communication thing, because like sometimes we create issues that would not have to be there if we just knew how to communicate better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I know that I'm famous for basically having arguments and stuff like that in my head to practice basically before I actually go talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And almost always it's never what I expect it to be. But I'm basically like protecting myself and building a pseudo armor basically for this battle I'm about to fight. Then, you know, we walk out to the battlefield and you're standing there alone while everybody else is like in their shorts and sipping cocktails. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're not here to fight. You're here to talk with people and just hang out, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's such a weird place to be, because it's like, well, what am I constantly afraid of failure so badly?
Interesting.
When I go and do things, more often than not, I learn so much, and I actually enjoy myself when I learn something. So it's like, why am I so constantly afraid of it?
Yeah, interesting.
Right? It's weird, but
And
I know I'm not the only one that does that kind of stuff.
No. Interestingly enough, I've heard a few conversations with people like that have a very similar experience, because I feel like oftentimes people that are passionate about truth find themselves in that situation just because of the fact that they're like, I don't know if that's actually how it works, and like, I'm going to challenge your thought.
Yeah.
But oftentimes we're not necessarily equipped with the right ways of how to challenge thought, and oftentimes we can get caught up in our egos, and like you said, we're not here to fight. We're here to enjoy each other, and like, yes, it's good to, you know, challenge each other's thought, but like, we're not here to, like, we're here to enjoy ourselves. Like, let's do it. Like,
well, and I think part of that stems from embarrassment, and partly being the youngest of my family sort of thing too, but it's when I found, at least when I was in my early 20s, I'd have an opinion about something, but I have zero information to back it up. And I wouldn't be able to explain myself properly. So then you get embarrassed, and then people start asking you questions and shooting holes through everything you say, and it's like, wow, I actually don't know what I'm talking about at all. So you start doing the research, but it also gets to the point where okay, well,
so
now
much.
I'm doing so much and I'm trying to learn so much that how much of this is even going to be functional, or will I even be able to talk about this to anybody, or whatever sort of thing like that, or am I going way too deep into something that nobody even give a shit about?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm glad you know your stuff, but you're really boring now because of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like it's almost like a late retaliation, let me show you how much I know because before I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I can.
Some of it's definitely compensation. Well, and some of it definitely because I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and I was always the smallest, slowest, dumbest one of the family. Right, and that I still work on some of that. Truth be told, like it's something that it's definitely not as big a part of my life, but I also understand that exterior validation is not the way to live a life, and I don't need that. It feels good sometimes and it's enjoyable, but at the same time, I don't need it to exist. That's where I think if I would have went hard into performing arts and stuff like that, I would probably have really bad psychological problems, because every time I didn't get a part, or every time I got a bad review, it would hit me way harder. Right? Where now doing this kind of stuff, I don't give a shit who sees it on the internet.
Yeah.
Shoot holes through it. Please do. Like, I actually
help me out here.
Yeah. I need the criticism sort of thing like that, as opposed to being constantly afraid of something that I may not even happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's the quality that I really started to honor, and I think that's one of the things that it's a benchmark for people that I keep in my life. It's just that you have to be able to be open to people shooting holes through your whatever. Yeah.
Well, and you probably notice it because you have quite a few followers on Instagram. It's like you could have an amazing something that you took time to concisely think about and lay out well, and you get 1,000 likes on it, but you get 2 comments that say, "Oh, you're fucking dumb," or whatever sort of thing. It doesn't matter how much praise you got. It's like, that really got to me.
Yeah. Well,
what are you doing? Who are you?
Those comments are interesting sometimes, because I almost see it as a challenge to prove them wrong in some sort of way, if I can, in a quick way.
Yeah, or sometimes just to understand why they would say that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, why would this person just out of nowhere try and shoot me down like that? And so I've become really good at handling those situations, because my nature has just always been to be that challenger of thought that and so people have come at me, especially when I talk about people having babies and how ethically wrong it can be considered to be in this world that we haven't even figured out for ourselves, and we just want to keep bringing people in. Some people get really triggered by that, because they're like, "Oh, but how could you tell me that I can't have kids? It's
not
my
what
right
I said."
and freedom." Yeah, exactly. And then it becomes that, right?
Yeah.
But I've because of that, because I've had those conversations and expressed, my thoughts publicly, I've had people being like that, and so more and more just learn how to deal with those people and
But I think that's also important, is because not just for the sake of them having a conversation with you about it sort of thing, but to challenge thought. Why are you having such an emotional response to this?
Yeah.
And that's a great thing to have.
Okay, so now that you say that, I'm gonna share a quote that's very relevant to that, actually, because it's Aristotle. An educated mind is able to entertain a thought without agreeing with it.
Yes.
And it goes back to education once again. And the place that people are coming from is an uneducated place. They could know a lot of things, actually, in actuality. But an educated person that is uneducated about the human experience is gonna try and hurt someone that they don't even know.
Yeah.
Just because they feel entitled to it. Just because maybe they're not educated in that area of life. They're not self-aware enough. They maybe don't have the tools to build a good self-esteem, a good self-image, or healthy relationships. And then they take it out on something else, right?
Yeah.
So It goes back to that uneducated mind and the way that education has to change.
Yeah, well, it's always weird too, because the way that confidence and education or level of intellect or lack of ignorance, I guess probably is a better way to say it. Mm-hmm. How, well, again, kind of back to the men picking up women kind of thing like that. You know, like confident guys, a lot of the times are dipshits, but you know, you see them picking up women at nightclubs and stuff all the time, is where somebody that's smart will sit there and overthink it and never talk to a girl all night. Right? And that's exactly that kind of thing, where shit happens all the time.
Yeah. And like it's ironic when that happens, because it's like you can have knowledge, but understanding and embodiment are like closer to true expression than just having the knowledge aspect of it. Well,
that's what wisdom is, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Knowledge is great, but well, like the internet is filled with knowledge. How much wisdom does it actually possess, though?
I have a quote for that, but I didn't rehearse for this or anything, so I can't remember it word for word.
Yeah,
but I mean, one of those books.
Yeah, but it's like a lot of those ancient philosophers, like Plato, apparently wasn't all that smart of a person comparably, but he just asked questions, and that's why he got murdered for, is because he was asking too many questions. And that's the thing, is that's the idea of challenging thought, is to have the ability to say, well, why do you think that way? Well, why is it this way? Well, why is it a problem? Okay, well, what's your solution to that problem?
Yeah, and doing that from the heart is basically what I feel like people need to learn how to do more.
Yeah.
To avoid, you know, coming out of a conversation and being like, that was rough. That was like, you know, and instead coming out of the conversation being like, that was cool. Like, I learned something. He learned, like, they learned something, you know, like, and we both came out of it understanding each other more, with our awareness being able to encompass more, understand more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what it should be. But it doesn't happen because oftentimes we're so caught up here that we're not even feeling, you know, from the heart. If we feel from the heart, we can tell, you know, what we're thinking of the other person. We're not just here. We're we're feeling out into the world.
Yes, but the other side of that same coin would be that you're kind of too caught up in your emotions, where you're unable to form the questions because you're kind of almost being attacked, so you're not really sure why that kind of thing.
I get what you're saying. I think that's still coming from the mind.
Oh, for sure it is, because it's where the fight or flight thing kind of pops in, because somebody's criticizing somebody about something at work or whatever, let's say, and instead of them being able to calmly keep themselves in check, sort of thing like that, and say, well, why do you say that? Why do you think it's this way? Well, why should I be doing this? Why shouldn't we all be doing this? Or what makes you think that you're in control? You know, like, we're all in the same level of employment here, or whatever, sort of thing like that. Like, and that's, well, talking to Miss Mueller's actually was a big part of it, because she was doing construction and she basically had to give it up because of her being a female and in construction. It's difficult, and understandably, but she would tell me about some of these situations. It's like, well, if that was me, I would have asked him this, and then I asked him that, and asked him this. And that's usually what it is when people start getting frustrated, it's so much easier to stay calm and let them get angry. And then if you start laughing at them, they get even more angry. You know, and it's obviously way easier said than done. I know that. But it took me a long time to refine that to a point where I can, I don't know, weaponize it. It probably is not the right way to say it, but at the same time to be comfortable with where I am in my knowledge of what I'm doing. And even if I don't know something, be okay with saying that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that, like, I was gonna say, like oftentimes we don't have our hearts and minds working together.
Yeah.
And that's part of the issue, right? Because, like, I myself, like, I may seem like a chill dude, but I can experience emotions very passionately. That's also what allows me to, you know, be an artist and a musician in the way that I am. But in my personal life, I've had to learn how to, like, make my heart and my mind work as a team, and how to sometimes control my fire. A lot of times through compassion, actually. So a lot of times, whenever I feel some sort of like triggering emotion, I try to use my mind to be like, okay, now it's the time to practice compassion, especially if I'm getting caught up in something that's like anger, you know, or like sadness, or like some sort of negative emotion that's lingering, especially when it's like lingering and I'm like killing myself over it in a sense, and like, oh, or like, you know. And now I've started to realize, I'm like, okay, now I have to practice compassion. Because I can either be compassionate towards the person, or myself, or the situation. And all those things are, every time have helped me. And I've grown so much through compassion that it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it took me, you know, learning through like sometimes hurting people that I loved, unfortunately.
Yep.
You know?
Well, the shitty part is too is that a lot of the time anger hurts you more than it hurts the person you're angry at. Because a lot of the time, especially if they
eventually, yeah, because you can hurt the person enough that they don't want to be in your life anymore, and then you lose a valuable person.
Yeah, or you're angry at something that they don't even care about. And it's like, well, it doesn't affect them at all, and you're still angry. So you're really the only one that's being affected by it.
Yeah, that context definitely as well, yeah.
Right. And that's a tough one to get past, because it's like, well, no, it should be this way. It's like, why does it matter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, why does it matter?
Yeah, and sometimes it's like you want things to be a certain way, and then you lose compassion because you're like, no, it's got like, why isn't it this way, you know? But no, not everything can be the way that you want it to be, and like, it's a tough lesson to learn sometimes, but yeah, compassion is amazing for like helping you deal with those situations as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I've kind of turned that into like a gentle fuck you to people sometimes, where they get mad at work or whatever sort of thing, and somebody explodes about something. It's like, are you all right? Is everything okay at home? And like, is it really this big a deal that you have to have this kind of emotional response?
It works well though, like.
And that's the thing that's like, because you say calm down to somebody, they're not going to calm down.
Yeah.
But if like you want to push their buttons a little bit harder. And it's like, if you want to really go for it, then go for it. Like, show them what you got. But it's like, you're not affecting me again. Like, you're angry by yourself.
Yeah, no. But what I found, I don't know if you found this by like doing that, but I found sometimes when I do it from a genuine place, because sometimes, you can use it to like push a button, right? But when I take a step back and I'm like, okay, what was that person just like irrational almost, you know, like, or like going way over the top about something that shouldn't be. You know, I actually take a step back and I like try and feel them, and then I'm like, is everything okay? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then the attitude, the energy changes completely, and it transforms the interaction to one that could be even more heated, to one that creates understanding. It creates, you know, something more positive. Yeah,
and I think that's the other good part is when you have time to think about it, and you're willing to, if you have the opportunity to go back to that same person, it's like, I didn't think about what I was saying from your point of view. Mm-hmm. That was unfair what I said. Mm-hmm. Or I wasn't aware of your emotional state at the time, or what you were going through, or I don't know your story.
Exactly. It opens up the conversation to all those things, and then, it creates understanding.
Yeah, and that's typically what it is that everybody's going to have some level of emotional response because of something that happens to them, right? Yeah. It's being able to say, it's like, okay, I had an explosion. Was it justified? If it was, great, but I could still talk to this person, because it's like, I can still do this in a better way. And I've had, construction is a constant pissing contest. It's a bunch of guys just trying to be the best of everybody all the time, sort of thing like that. And I've got mad at people that I've had to go apologize to, but the nice thing about it is a lot of the time, if somebody's willing to work with you or understand you, everything's better after that. You know, because they've had an explosion themselves, and they had to walk something back before, or whatever sort of thing like that too. So it's that idea of understanding, but also understanding that forgiveness is a huge part of something that we just don't do anymore.
And that's what compassion is basically, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like acknowledging that like maybe this person isn't just coming after me or the situation, but there's something behind it that we might be able to also empathize with, because a lot of times we have way more in common than we think we do.
Oh, for sure,
with
yeah.
people, right? When we actually take the time to be like, what's going on? Instead of being like retaliating or like trying to push a button or like, you know, like that kind of thing. So yeah, no, compassion has been like a great way for me to handle my emotional intensity, because I also don't let a lot of people see it, right? Like it's the thing that like only the closest people to me, because to most people I may seem like, you know, a chill person, maybe a bit crazy sometimes, but never necessarily like overly angry or like overly sad, you know. But I can experience those emotions very intensely. And
well, the thing that I frighten myself with anger is how, well, I always actually call it powerful it made me feel, but it's not just powerful, it makes me feel righteous. And that's a scary, bad feeling when you're angry, is that it's just like, not only do I feel like I'm empowered by my thoughts and my emotions in this, but it's like I can only be right now. And that's a terrible way to look at it.
No, but it's like, it's so easy to get caught up in it if you don't know the solution, right? If you know the solution, which oftentimes is just as simple as knowing how compassion works and how to remind yourself. And something simple like traffic. You know, lost my mind on somebody because of, you know, road rages. Everybody gets at some point, I'm sure. But and you think about it, it's like, okay, hold on. Maybe this person had a perfect driving record, and today their mind was somewhere else, and this is the first time they've actually made a mistake, or they cut a line or didn't signal or something like that. And I just happened to be there, and I'm having a shitty day, and I just lost my shit. So again, it's like, I don't know their story, I don't know their situation. Calm down. Exactly. And because sometimes emotional reactions are inevitable, right? Like you said, right? Like you could have also had a stressful day, you know, and your reaction is gonna be like, you know, the days when I'm able to be like, oh, that person probably had a bad day, compared to the times when I'm like, you know, what the fuck is this person, you know, like thinking, or like blah blah blah, and I have to catch myself, are definitely related to how stressful my life and day is that day. Right? So
for certain.
Mm-hmm.
You need something? Okay. Just wondering if you wanted to jump in or not.
What does that mean?
No.
Oh, okay.
I had one.
Okay.
But I mean, that was also the thing with not just, well, road rage is always a great example, but I mean, you're already in a unnatural heightened state when you're driving, for one. But I mean, the other part of it is that it's not a small thing because of that. Like, some people don't seem to realize like how dangerous it is to drive, and they just drive with no care or concern or zero courtesy for anybody else. They don't realize like how dangerous their actions can be. So it's like, sometimes I kind of feel justified in that anger, but again, it's like, I'm not going to pull them over and try to talk to them about it. I mean, if I did, would I be able to compose myself properly to say, that was really dangerous, you got to be more attentive to what you're doing, sort of thing? And would it fall on deaf ears is the other thing. So really, again, if I'm the only one that's angry inside of my car screaming, and I love seeing that when you see somebody like driving down the road and you see them just losing their mind, their windows are rolled up, you can't hear them, their own little world, sort of thing like that. And that's all there is. But that's kind of part of the problem, is that when somebody gets a piece of glass between them and the rest of the world, that's all there is just them in that car.
And that's a great metaphor for like also like social media, right? Like, it's a piece of glass, and you know, like, you're in your little box there, like on the other side, so you can't. You know?
Well, that's exactly it. I don't, half the time when I read the stuff that you're saying, I don't think of you as a person. I think of the words that are written there that I'm reading, which is the stupidest thing. And it's actually kind of an epiphany I'm just having now. When I think about it, it's just like, I know this guy. Why am I frustrated about what he's typed here? Or why am I going to sit here and try to shoot holes through this stuff without actually talking to the guy about stuff?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's so dumb because it's like, I like him. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Right? And that's just it. Again, I don't know your entire life experience. So, like, you're saying these things for a certain reason or whatever it is, sort of thing. And only that, if it's giving me this kind of a response, what does that say about me?
Yeah.
Right? What do I have to work on?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I know. So
And again, it's that being able to take that time to take a step back. What am I actually doing? What am I looking at? What am I saying?
Yeah. No, and that's why I feel like right now is the perfect time to have this conversation because it's so related to so many things, not just for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, but for most people, you know, that like are looking for answers, looking for truth, and looking for like the genuine side of people. Because at the end of the day, like you said, like sometimes we might read something and be like, why are they saying this first, and why am I having this reaction? If maybe this person isn't actually this.
Yeah.
Everything that's involved in what's happening from this one little sentence or thing or whatever, right? Yeah, because I think people at the end of the day want to be at a state of harmony and bliss. You know, the only people that don't, they've had some shit in their life that like has made them resentful in some sort of way. Like where you're saying, we don't know what's happened in someone's life, but usually hurt people, right?
Yes.
So, and it's that tension again, that state of where you're reacting to things from. If you're having a shitty life, shitty day, shitty everything, or at least you have that perspective even, you know, you could have a decent life, but if you're having that perspective and that's your reality, then you're gonna take that out. You're gonna react to things in a certain way. Whereas, like, if you had, you know, like, internal peace, relational harmony, you know, like, different things in your life that, like, make you feel great. If something comes at you, you're gonna approach it from a way different place.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's been an issue with trying to nerf the whole world, is that adversity is going to come to people no matter what. Mm-hmm. So trying to a degree, yes, the world can be softer in certain ways, but it doesn't mean we have to make softer people, though, either. I mean, it's like JFK's speech about space travel in the 60s. He kind of touches it like in that direction of, I mean, it's a little dated, but I'll update it a bit, is the idea we shouldn't try for better lives or easier lives. We should try to be stronger people.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, actually, because when we think about strength and anger, for example, you said, you know, it makes me feel powerful. And you do kind of get powerful in a sense, but you're also, like, weaker.
And you put the blinders
you're weaker.
on.
Yeah, you're weaker in a sense as well. So who is stronger? The person who gets triggered by someone else, or the person who remains in control?
Yeah.
You know? So in that sense, true strength comes from compassion.
Yeah. That's actual strength, yeah.
That's actual strength.
Yeah.
Because you're receiving this attack, this, you know, adversity, unwanted situation, and you're strong enough to not let your ego get in the way, and you're strong enough to take everything that is involved in the situation into account and act upon that.
Yeah.
Rather than weak enough to just be set off or be like led by your emotions and be like powerful in the sense that, you know, your righteousness makes you believe that your emotions are completely valid regardless of what the situation is.
Yeah. One, it's the bad way to try to justify a point of view anyways. Yeah. Because you're, well, literally ready to fight for it, whether it's with words or physically at that point, because you're, clouding your judgment, clouding your thoughts. And it's like, no, it's one direction. And like that's why I did the put the blinders on kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm right and there's nothing else that could be right.
And literally, when you get angry, because like I said, I had to do some work with myself, watch a TED talk on anger.
Yeah.
And literally, the scientific response that your body has to anger is it shuts off your logical brain.
Yeah. Well, it's a fight or flight response.
Yeah,
straight up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anger, it takes away thought power. It takes away digestion. It takes away sex drive. Because it's in that fight or flight response, it's focusing your blood into your muscles and not really anything else in your head, even. And it's a primal reaction, is what it is.
Yeah. So you are weakening all your senses in a sense, you're just
Yeah, and that's the reason why we're on top of the food chain, is that we thought our way out of things. We didn't have to be stronger.
That's true. Very true. So yeah, in that sense, yeah, their true strength is not in like forceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I think about the whole idea of the next step of evolution. Like, we can't evolve without technology, and instead of us fighting against. Well, because we're becoming smarter than we can evolve to match, so we need technology to help us keep our minds and stuff together. Like our phones are basically like a third hemisphere of our brain. I heard a neuroscientist talk about that, and it's like that makes a lot of sense because we have more knowledge and more capability than what we can physically do even.
Yeah.
And our minds, like your brain is something that fits inside your head, but our minds right now are connected. And if somebody watches this later, they'll connect to their minds. And then all of a sudden you have, like you talked about earlier, about this consciousness, this global consciousness that's fitting together, and it's becoming larger and closer all the time. But for us to get beyond just what that is to the next level of the great filter, as scientists call it, is like we need to become some level of mechanical human sort of thing like that, some sort of cyborg for us almost to actually truly evolve to the next stage of life. And every time they talk about the great filter, it's always on that. I say this almost every time I think, is that it's that idea that every time life as we understand it evolved to its next stage, it's because of cooperation. Right? It went from basically inorganic matter as far as we know to organic matter because something got together. Went from singular life to multicellular life because things got together. Like the mitochondria became part of a cell to become a multicellular organism and grow from there. We started getting more and more complex to the point where sentience became something. But society wouldn't work if we wouldn't have got together. We'd still be on small tribes like chimps are. So every time we cooperate, we evolve.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be our next step of evolution, is that we have to cooperate more.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we started
education.
kind of talking about that unity and growth of consciousness that comes through education, through people creating understanding, right? That's all leading toward cooperation. So that's what I'm saying. This is the time when this conversation needs to happen, because that's what we need. We need to be grounded in what is, outside of bias, as much as we can, because everyone comes from a different place, and everyone has to let go of different biases than the other.
Well, what do you think, in your opinion, what do you think humans as a species are? Because we're definitely a superorganism. Comparably, you look at an anthill, that's a full, well-structured society. An individual ant is kind of useless. But what they do together is amazing.
Yeah.
And you see, sometimes a 2-foot tall pile that it's taken them years possibly to build. But it couldn't have been done by a single ant.
Yeah.
So how do you feel what are humans in that kind of sense? Or what are we striving towards, I guess, is probably more a succinct question. Because we're all individually, we're all kind of our own little bag of problems and somewhat inconsequential. What is the human race? What are we going towards, in your opinion?
Towards?
Or building, or what are we to the planet even?
Well, the thing that we are to the planet right now is more like a parasite, more than a symbiotic organism.
Yeah, to it somewhat.
Yeah, well, because we've like invaded territories, you know, drawn resources, affected ecosystems.
Yeah.
You know, made some species go extinct. Those are qualities of like parasites.
For sure.
You know,
but parasites don't build cities and fly to different planets. And
I
stuff.
know. I know, but like we have very like parasitic qualities, you know, within that realm of existence, right? Because we can intellectualize and like construct and build way more complex things than parasites could, right? So that's the interesting thing, because we started more off as like kind of symbiotic beings, and like that's what like a lot of native tribes tried to strive for, symbiotic existence. A lot of native North American and South American culture and way of living was in alignment with a symbiotic existence.
Yeah, we'll find an equilibrium.
Exactly, balance, right? So that's what I mean, because like the general state of humanity within its economy and like everything that surrounds that, it's very like subtract, conquer, you know, take, not so much focus on that giving aspect.
Well, somewhat, because life in general is about, doesn't matter what.
No, I know, but there's that balance, right? So,
right, but
so it's the balance that determines that the state of harmony.
Okay, so
I feel,
next question then is, who should die?
Who should die?
Right, because everything else basically finds an equilibrium, and we have enough technology to keep even the weak alive.
Yeah.
So does that mean we should start reducing the population, or at least not expanding it the way we do?
Well, I think
reducing is probably not the right way to do it.
If we gave parents like a requirement to be a parent, that they have to go through training courses, I feel like not as many people would want to be parents. It would also restrict like people's freedom in a sense, which is something that people would definitely backlash
for sure.
But that in itself would ensure that the people who are being parents would actually do a great job, and it would also reduce the amount of people that would want to be parents.
Yeah. Possibly, but that also kind of falls into the, I'll wait till I'm ready. But some people that should have kids would never have kids then too.
I mean, I guess, but when we're talking about population issues and like the question that we're raising, that's kind of what comes to mind, because I mean, there's so many people in this world that question like almost has to be asked, because like what if you know, we do make the changes that we need to do, we are able to create abundance for everyone, then what? We're gonna procreate like rabbits even more, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, but there's also the thing that happens where like the more educated that a society is, the more unwanted pregnancy that there also is, which has been a number that has been found.
To a point, because I think it's Bangladesh, I'm pretty sure, that their education, and it's been like within a lifetime basically, that their country went from like third world, or I don't know if we're allowed to say that anymore even, but basically at bottom tier kind of country to like an almost fully industrialized country within 50 or 60 years or something. And education's been a massive part of that, and they've gone from having like 7 kids to the 2.5 average, sort of thing like that. And a big part of that's educating women, because when women are smarter, they have more opportunity and they can provide for society better. Because they understand things better. And it makes sense. Like, again, education is typically the solution. Right. So we could naturally reduce population by doing so. And I know I asked a very pointed question to say who should die, but at the same time, though, too, to find equilibrium has to be done somehow, though.
And I think maybe the question also can be flipped and say who should live.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, through education, I find that the most educated people that I have met, question highly if they want to have kids or not.
Yeah.
They're very, very, you know, like, I don't know, I'd have to find someone that, like, I would be for sure, you know,
Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt, know that, like, not only would I want to have a kid with them because I'm attracted to them,
Yeah.
but also that we would be good parents together, and that we would keep our own baggage outside of it in the process to a certain degree.
Yeah. Or well, deal with it in constructive
And
ways.
yeah. And so yeah, I feel like asking who should live would become a more prominent question within the mind of an educated person.
Yeah.
And hence, you know, reduce the population naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the other part of it. I mean, they'd have, I think, because Bangladesh, I'm fairly certain, was the one that I was watching about it. But I mean, the idea that in less industrialized countries have to have that many kids because upwards of 50% of them will die. Mm-hmm. So you have to have 7 kids just so that 3 of them might make it to adulthood.
Yeah.
So that's the other part of it too, and that's I mean, well, yeah, like our life expectancy within 100 years has gone up by almost twofold. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
So and that's a huge help for a lot of things, but at the same time, it's also creating issues that we're not ready for. Like by 2050, like a third of the world's population will be retirement age.
Yeah.
How are we going to deal with that many old people?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we haven't thought about, right? And that's the thing that, like, I saw becoming an issue like years ago, because, like, I don't know, I just had a feeling like the way the numbers were going, it wasn't adding up to perfection. It was adding up to a lot of issues that we haven't fully accounted for. Mm-hmm. And it almost makes me think that, you know, that Simpsons, have you ever seen that Simpsons episode where the world is ending? And all the elite put together a group of people, like almost like Noah's Ark. Yeah. But on a spaceship, and Lisa, like, gets invited and she gets a +1.
Yeah.
I kind of think that in realistic terms, like, that's why people are investing so much on Elon Musk's, like, idea of colonizing Mars. Because I don't know if they think that, like, it's gonna get better either, and they're probably getting ready to, like, head out of here when like shit hits the fan.
Yeah, that could be part of it. I mean, I think there's also that exploratory, pioneering spirit that it kind of will always be part of us.
Yeah.
Is part of it, but I mean, obviously it's Simpsons. They're making because I'm pretty sure there was 2 ships, and the other one was flying into the sun.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's come true. Like, you know, the Simpsons haven't, you know, necessarily been wrong.
They've predicted the future quite a few times.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying.
Well, and I think that it's a good idea to be an interplanetary species for several reasons. The big one is, like, the whole idea of all your eggs in one basket. Like, say there's a large meteor strike or a nuclear war or whatever happens, sort of thing like that. All humanity has to basically start from scratch again.
Yeah, the only issue with that is, like, only the privilege. Like, you know, like we've alluded with the Simpsons example. Yeah. Only the most privileged would get access to that out. You know?
Not at the start. The start would mostly be scientists and engineers and construction to build those things, or machines that start building colonies for us, or things like that. If shit
doesn't hit the fan before all that stuff gets developed, right? Because if shit hits the fan, I feel like they're bringing the scientists and all those people and themselves.
Yeah.
You know, because it's only survival of the fittest.
Yeah. Well, but to a degree, I mean, I'm pretty sure the Sierra Mountains have, like, huge caverns and stuff like that, and it can support like 100,000 people inside of a mountain in case there is something large that happens, where at least society, like human kind will at least won't fully disappear at least. But with that said, though, too, I mean, there's also a lot of things that I think we can learn about ourselves if we go other places. Like if we figure out how to live on the moon in one of the dark craters or something like that, so we can, well, be safe from direct contact from the sun, basically, because you know our magnetosphere is a huge reason why we're alive right now. But with that said, though, too, I mean, if we start solving problems there, we might be able to figure out how to solve other problems here. Same thing with Mars. If we figure out how to do things better there, maybe we'll be able to do things better here then as well, or Venus, let's say, because
of the different kind of environments and contexts.
And we don't, maybe because it's partly that we're looking at a problem only one way, and we can't really see it until we start going to other planets to figure out, oh, this is a consistent problem with planets. This is the thing that needs to change, not this other thing we thought.
Yeah.
Right. So
I could see that, like, on a scientific level, like maybe production level, but I don't know if it would happen like fast enough for.
Oh no, but
that's
exactly why Musk was pushing for this kind of stuff, because his heart was broken when not only the space shuttle program was canceled, but him trying to make rockets and stuff like that was shit on by like Neil Armstrong, like directly. And he almost started, he cried during an interview. He's like, I really wish they would just come and see what we're doing here. Like, these guys are my heroes. And you could see, like, he was just welling up with tears. Like, I'm starting to just thinking about it, because it's like, like he has this vision of why the future has to be so fraught with so many problems on one planet when we can expand and be abundant and thrive in other parts of our own solar system. To grow and to be more, to be better, sort of thing. And I know, like, the other part of the argument is like, well, why are we going to other planets when we can fix this one? But the other part is too, is like, well, there's what, 7.5 billion people on the planet. I'm pretty sure we can do more than one thing at a time, right?
Yeah, I mean, the population is getting big enough that we can,
for sure,
that we can be like, okay, let's take some people from here and move them here while we keep figuring out shit here, and then, thrive here in a different way, but kind of similar. So I feel like, there's some possibilities there, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, people just need to watch this podcast, and we've already solved half the world's problems.
We got it, man. We just gotta hope that people just listen.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of I think the big driver that someone like Musk is oddly by himself.
Yeah.
Because not only is he doing that, he's trying to he's making electric vehicles to help reduce carbon footprint, which is, at the moment, it's kind of just pushing the bottleneck to a different place, but at least he's going in the right direction. He's doing all these things with his money, where most billionaires are doing it to have a joyride to space. They're not doing it for any reason. These oil sheiks that we don't even hear about in the Middle East that are easily as rich as Elon Musk is. What are they doing with their money? They're not doing anything other than sitting basically on a large pile of gold. They don't do anything with their money either, as far as I know, right? Like, there's enough technology and ability and ingenuity to make things happen. They said it'd only take something like $20 to $40 billion to build a moon base, which is fuck all, because Elon Musk just bought Twitter for $43 billion. Right, so, and it's going to probably get to that point where it's like, if nobody's going to do this because bureaucracy is too slow, I'll do it all myself then. Which obviously, one man's not going to do everything by himself, but it's just like, we're going to do this together. And everybody that wants to come along, please do.
Well, that's part of how I came up with the awakened elite concept, because I saw, the philosopher king concept is a little bit too far-fetched, just a little bit too drastic of a change. But if more people like, Elon Musk, that are, somewhat more aware of somewhat greater issues and have the ability to make some substantial change because of their economic position in the world, then shit would actually get done.
Yeah.
So the awakened elite concept is mostly that like, if we get enough elite people to get on the same page as, for example, people like Elon Musk, and maybe, I don't know enough, so like, I'd have to find out more about all the initiatives, but if though the ones that I know of are great, like what you're saying, right? So yeah, if we got enough elite people that are sitting on a lot of money to, you know, flip the light switch on and get on the same page, that's when shit would happen.
Yeah.
So that's why, I basically came up with that, because there's people that are completely asleep, and those elite that are asleep and are not awakened, and continue to not be awakened, will be labeled a certain way, whereas the elite that come out of that sleep and like wake up, or so to speak, are gonna be put in another category. So the elite, this is something that I have in the back of my book. It's like the elite have two choices: eternal glory or eternal damnation.
Yeah, and how many billionaires or whatever in the world that haven't done anything?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, I never even really thought about it. Like the talk of someone like Musk, it's like, oh, he's the richest man in the world. It's like, really? Because I'm pretty sure the Queen of England owns countries.
Yeah.
She owns countries.
Yeah.
Like, she's in the trillions at that point then.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, well, they don't really do anything. It's like, don't they?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have influence still?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah, with that amount of money, like, how could you not?
Well, yeah.
You know?
Well, and even when they come to Canada on our own dollar, basically, and it's like, oh, yeah, let's go tour the colonies, shall we? You know, so they come out for a trip, and people line up to just like, oh, maybe I'll be close enough to maybe touch one of them or something, or, you know, like,
yeah.
What good is all that wealth if all you're going to do is sit in your castle?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree, man.
Yeah, so we're getting to that point, and I saw, that's why I wrote it, you know, that way, because I saw it either like categorizing the elites in two places. Like, it's that simple. It's not going to get any more complex.
Yeah.
It's either you're going to get labeled through eternal damnation, like you're going to be just the scum of the earth kind of thing, or you're going to step up with all your wealth and do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very important. I agree, man, because there's so much that can be done, and that's the frustrating part, is we have the ability, the technology to do a lot of these things, but because people don't see the profit in it, we don't do them.
Yeah, and you know, that's actually one of the issues within like trying to reform the government, because we're going to the middleman, you know, and so to speak, because the government is not really the top man. Like they want us to believe that they're the top man, but we're going to the middleman.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the difficult part, the way that the system works, because, you know, let's say consciousness grows, unifies to the extent that it needs to, and we do get enough people trying to hold the governments accountable. We're still going to the middleman.
Yep.
So they might be able to do something about it if enough people unify, but there's already bylaws against protesting. You know, there's been like things that have been put in place so that we are even prevented from going into the middleman.
Yeah.
So now we have to find a way not only to get to the middleman, but get to the top man, which are the elites that have the money. And I don't know if going to the government is gonna be enough pressure for them to decide, do we want to be in eternal damnation or do we want to be in eternal glory? You know, because like I said, like that's what it comes down to when it comes down to like the worst case scenario, right? Which is something that we have to kind of like start thinking of and preparing for, because it's like only like less than a few decades away, right?
Yeah. No, that's very true. And that, well, and like we had talked about before, I mean, politicians are not, for whatever reason, not the best sampling of humankind. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why we keep doing this. Well, that's not true. I don't. Wait. The good analogy that I kind of came up with is that politicians are kind of like dancing monkeys. And we say, dance, monkey, dance. And they dance the way we want them to. The problem is, instead of throwing a couple bucks into an empty hat, we give them control of cities or countries.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of just as much our fault that the politicians are the way they are as it is theirs.
Yeah,
so,
and I mean, it's because, like, they've also made it so that it's hard for us to like...
Well, it's that whole illusion of choice, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
right. So that's
illusion of choice.
And that's actually a really good... You've actually put that really succinctly, too, is that, the political world is basically the buffer between the poor and the rich. They keep us away from each other.
Yeah, I never, like...
That's actually...
I just, like, thought about it that way and, like, put it that way just because of the way that we were talking, but it is true, like, they're like the protection. Literally, they have armies that if the rich wanted to, they could use the law to protect themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and then equating that to old kings and queens, that's almost exactly what it is.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, there's a series of bureaucracy to keep...
So we have, anonymous kings and queens, and that's the issue. You can't point a finger necessarily.
Yeah.
And if you do, they already found a way of how to, like, silence your finger.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, or if you do catch them doing something, it's like, no, but really, look over here, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, what's Russia doing? What's going on in Brazil?
Yeah.
Did you hear about that Suez Canal thing? Like, isn't that, like, whoa. Don't change the subject. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and every time we put our trust in them, it's, Joe Rogan actually made a really good analogy on that one. It's like every time we try to trust people in power, it's just like Charlie Brown going to kick at football, and Lucy pulls it away from him at the last second every fucking time. And there we are, on our ass. Like we thought it was going to work out this time, and it never does.
That's the tricky part. But I feel like, I don't know, if somehow we were able to unify consciousness enough and be able to embody that through wisdom, then...
That's actually another Elon Musk project, is Neuralink. Instead of having cumbersome conversation, we can basically beam our direct thoughts into each other's minds, which, has a lot of problems with it, just on the surface. But
do you know about the story of the Lemurians?
No, I don't think I do.
So the Lemurians came before the Atlanteans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting story.
The name sounds familiar, but I don't really know anything about them.
Lemuria was before Atlantis.
Okay.
And so the story goes, and I like this story because it kind of helps put things into perspective and how we function as beings and our thoughts and our autonomy.
Yeah.
So apparently, the story goes that we were created as a slave race from aliens or interdimensional beings as a means to mine for gold here on Earth. But then there was a point where humans became conscious enough that they wanted their own autonomy. And so we were given our own autonomy. And back then there was enough wisdom still with us that we lived in complete harmony with Earth. To the extent that they say that they achieved immortality in Lemuria. And then Atlantis was like another city that was created after, and they were doing a scientific experiment through sacred geometry and Merkaba science, and they were working with portals. This is how the story goes, right? So I'm just and one portal was open, and a warrior species from Mars that had extinguished themselves through war and completely eradicated life, almost eradicated completely life in their planet, came through that portal. And at that point, before they came through the portal, Lemurians were able to communicate like what you just said, by projecting just our thoughts into each other's minds. Without technology, apparently. This is how we functioned.
Yeah. Well, to a degree, I mean, we kind of almost have that. I mean, not to the direct point of like full on thought, but you know when someone's looking at you.
So the interesting thing is that when that species came through that portal and they were focused on conquering, power, they were also able to tap into that, but they started to put thoughts into each other's minds that were not beneficial to their own life, and so we started to lose our ability to do that through people doing that.
Yeah.
Or so that's what's interesting about like when you bring that up. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of things that go along with that. Like if you're able to project thoughts into someone, what's to say that that's going to be necessarily a positive experience for that person?
Yeah.
And how else could you like fuck with someone's mind when you're like in their head?
Yeah, well, for sure. Well, and not only that, I mean, how often does your mind wander?
Yeah.
When you're halfway through a thought and you think about something else, like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So it would just be because we're not at that spiritually evolved place where like our thoughts can, be pure enough and like aware enough that we are able to communicate harmoniously through just our thoughts. It would be like chaos in a sense. Like,
yeah, well, and like anything, when it's new, it would be difficult.
Yeah.
But I think once we had Neuralink or augmented telepathy, like mechanically augmented telepathy or whatever you want to call it, sort of thing like that, it would be probably hugely beneficial because, like you would have full intention of what you meant come across the way you intended it. I can also see, the pitfalls of, hacking people's brains and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is the scary part.
Ghost in the Shell was a great example of that. But at the same token, though, too, I mean, there's a huge benefit to it. But I think, yes, like we're emotionally, societally not
ready.
Yet.
We're not ready for that.
For sure. And there'll be tons of unforeseen problems if it does happen or when it happens.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, too. But again, I mean, that's the whole idea of humans moving forward is that we have to do it together anyway.
Yeah, well,
right?
because we have to be able to connect our thoughts. Definitely. I see that part. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And that's hugely beneficial for lots of stuff because I know it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be tough to get to that point, but I think it'll be as good as it can be, as fast as it can be, because human nature always slows things down, and sometimes it's because people have to go against the grain.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. So it'll be its own thing, but I mean, I hope we get there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good time to wrap it up.
We're 2:45 in at least, anyways. So
yeah.
Gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and also gotta go do some other stuff for sure.
For sure, man.
It's been great, man.
Yeah, this has been really good.
Really enjoyed all of it, and I'm glad we caught it on camera.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing too. It's just like I kind of go to the bathroom too, but it's like, fuck, I have like another hour worth of conversation I could get into. But it's
but we can do it again another time. Yeah,
for sure, man.
It's great. Like I love all the insights.
Appreciate
all
awesome.
Because I definitely saw things, in ways that have helped me create greater clarity. So I'm really glad. I'm really grateful for this conversation.
For sure, man. Me too.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we're calling it.
Okay.